Perfect. Looking at the time, I would suggest slowly get into today's agenda. First of all, welcome everyone. We're very happy to have been able to join us again on the next MCCG. I will just briefly introduce the format of today's meeting. As you might have seen, the chat is locked. So today's presentation will be taking place, as you are well aware, via MS Teams. But for the questions, as you should be able to see in the chat, and also based on the email received yesterday, we will be using a dedicated platform, which you can join either by scanning the QR code, which you can see on the bottom right side of the page, or by using a browser and typing in slido.com and entering the code, which you also should see on your screens. After that, you should be able to see a window where you would type your question. You can either type your question anonymously, or, and this is preferred and much appreciated, if you include also your name and organization. This is very helpful to give us a bit of a feedback on where the question is coming from, and would be helpful then to for us to be able to answer. And in general, then, so that you understand the process, that your question does not automatically appear. It will be done so once the question is reviewed, but then it's very useful also to increase also the likelihood of your question being answered live during the session if you check the questions already raised and vote for the question which you seem as relevant. In that way, we will prioritize, or will be giving us a signal to prioritize this question. But as a last also point, be not afraid, all the questions that will be appearing on the question board, which will be then shared on this screen, will be taken in and answered via the regular Q&A document, which will be shared with all participants after the MCCG. I hope it is clear. As mentioned, all the instructions that were shared with you also via email with the meeting material yesterday should be visible to you also in the chat together with the link. And we will be slowly gathering the questions here during the presentation and getting to them at the end of each agenda section. So with that, maybe it would be a good time to move to the agenda, but I would give the word first to Thomas, Pierre, and Salim, the MCCG conveners, to also welcome you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I think very short from my side, so welcome. Very happy already to have again 200 plus participants. So it's showing clearly that this forum is much appreciated and much interest. I will not keep it long, but we are already at the 7th MCCG. We from TSO Nemo side, together with market parties representatives, will absolutely continue this format. And I think for today we have many topics and only 3.5 hours, so I will leave it there and pass on the word to Pierre or Salim for this first short introduction, and then we can go through the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. So good morning, everybody. I'm Pierre representing the NEMOS this morning. It's the same format as earlier this year, so we are not going to have a full day meeting, half a day only, with a packed agenda, and you will see some recurring topics from SIDC and SDAC, respectively intraday and day ahead single coupling. We will be highlighting as well some news on the ongoing project, reviews of methodologies, and so on. What is new today, you heard it, these are the Q&A. The way to convey questions changed in comparison with the previous meeting. So please connect to this Slido meeting if you have some questions to raise. We will again answer everything we could during the session, and we will publish afterwards the meeting minutes as well as a Q&A document in case we cannot answer live, and to basically wrap up publicly on what was said. I wish you a good session today.
Thank you, Thomas, Pierre, and Christina. Good morning, everyone. So, although I've been following these topics in the MCCG for some months now, it's my first meeting as a co-convener, so maybe just to introduce myself briefly. I am Selim Bousseta. I work for EDF at the department in charge of the optimization of EDF's portfolio. I am a representative of Eurelectric. More specifically, I'm chair of the Market Integration Working Group. But I'm here today representing all market participants, including, in particular, Energy Traders Europe. I think that would be it for my presentation. Now, just a few words to say to thank the representative from the MCSC for the organization of this meeting. I'm mindful, and think we all are mindful that that setting this up is a lot of work, but it's very helpful that we have this forum of information and discussion on those topics that keep us busy at the moment. So I invite everyone, all market participants, to ask their question on the topics of the day. The meeting is really intended for that. And as Christina mentioned, there is a Slido meant for that. Thank you, and have a good session, everyone.
Okay, I think we can then go shortly through the agenda. As also Pierre mentioned, we have one session that's covering topics on day ahead and intraday. We will start with the 50-minute MTU and the implementation on both timeframes, as well as some clarifications on the rollback, and then some questions or feedback that we have given on some of the points that we have been discussing with Selim and his colleagues the past months, and that were also raised in the previous MCCG. So that's, let's say, a kind of recap. And we go through some updates on the decoupling events, some reflections, as well as also discuss the feedback that we have received from market participants. Then there's a short break, and then we continue with other topics, starting intraday auctions, the first month of operations, some feedback from both MCSC as well as market participants. The implementation of the 30-minute intraday gate closure time, which is an aspect presented by TSOs to provide a status on that one and how we're tackling it. An update on the methodologies will be presented by the NEMO Tech convener. Then the roadmap of our both projects, day ahead and intraday. And then last content topic is co-optimization, to then close with an AOP. And ideally, we are then targeting 12:30, which was also a feedback which we received, to try to fit our schedule in a morning session, which is different compared to, let's say, our previous MCCGs, at least, which were sometimes a bit longer. So that's the agenda that we have for today. And I hope everyone is enthusiastic to discover more about these topics. So I think then we can almost go into the content. One last introduction from our side still, and it's also a bit related to some of questions we have received either directly or indirectly. And for your information, it's also a way how from our side the questions that we will receive we will be able to answer. So I think it's also good for you to know that within MCSC we are covering only one part, let's say, of the whole market coupling. I think the scope of CSCM is quite big, but as MCSC, we're of course the central project covering day ahead and intraday, but there are responsibilities also allocated elsewhere. And I think here, also in coordination with some of the other stakeholder groups on the regional level, we have at least made some overview what is actually in scope of this session or of MCSC in general. It's a non-exhaustive list. It's mostly targeting, let's say, what is happening today, what are the actions that we are taking. And this is also, let's say, how we are mostly able to answer the questions that you will raise. Some of them we can pick up to some extent, but mostly the core is what you see here on the left-hand side. It's all about the capacity allocation, the intraday auctions project, advanced hybrid coupling, how it will be implemented, and then, of course, the 50-minute implementation. All these aspects are really at the center of our business, and there we're able to provide feedback. When there are more topics related to capacity calculation, really timings of regulation, regional testing, etc., this is, let's say, outside of scope. This is either for the CCRs or for potentially individual TSOs or NEMOs, or NRAs, or Commission, or Acer, if it's really about legislation. So these are answers, questions which we are not able to really, we're not in charge, we're not in the lead. Hence, this will also be more difficult for us to really provide answers to the questions being raised. And it's also as such that it might be handled given the Slido. So that's more as a background. And then I think we can go to Christina for the last check on the action points that we had. I think, yes, so this is here, the action points. I will not spend much more time on it. In principle, everything is covered in the session file today, and we will touch upon them either a bit more extensively or a bit more shorter but we try to ensure that all of these topics at least have been picked up, either in some testings or in the session file today, so that there is more clarification given. I'm not sure, Pierre or Celine, if there is one particular one to be highlighted from your side, but I guess we can keep it rather short in my view here.
Yes, we pretty much answer everything in this session today. First of all, for the very first point we will discuss it will be linked to some specific testing scenarios that will be highlighted later on. I'm talking about this first action point for the SDAC 15 minutes project, basically some increased loads and usage of blocks. But for the rest, you will find the answers in the presentation today. We did not miss the target. So please hold on and stay tuned.
Okay, then I guess we can give the word to the conveners of the day ahead quorum, which are Adele and Benjamin, who are in charge of the 15-minute day ahead. And I think also initially then also Chris Kleinpennig and Diobomir Grozdanov, who are, let's say, the SIDC OPSCOM 15-minute ITP box, who will preside also the info on SIDC. I would say, go ahead.
Yes, good morning all. I think the floor is for me. Because we will make a start with an update on the intraday implementation for the 15 minutes market time unit. Yeah, it was reported in the previous MCCG that there will be a approach for by waves for the implementation of the 15 minutes market time unit. We are starting the testing phase, or we are already starting with testing actually, following this approach with multiple waves, bringing all kind of areas and borders stepwise live with the 15 minutes market time unit. At the moment, the central systems are completely prepared for this. So the expert system and the IDAS, they basically can handle the 50 minutes already. Yeah, just looking at what we have today already, we have a range of areas already working with the 15 minutes market time unit. We had the first wave bringing live the Czech Republic with 15 minutes market time unit. And we are about to bring live the Baltic region in a third wave. This third wave is actually planned for the 20th of November. Go live. Then, as a starting point, we actually had in mind that we will have 2 waves in 2025, starting with 1 wave early in January and a second wave somewhere in March. That basically still holds, but there appears to be a need to make a split on the first wave in January. First, we are going to implement the 15 minutes market time unit for the Italian area and all its internal borders. And as a second step, the external borders towards, amongst others, France, they will be activated somewhere in the middle of January. So for this we defined wave 4A and a wave 4B. This is just also driven by a regulation that the Italian area should be on the 15 minutes area, 15 minutes market time unit by the 1st of January. Then in March, where it was intended to be actually the go live of both intraday and day ahead. That's slightly changed for the day ahead market coupling, which will be presented later on. We have still this window for the intraday markets, where we are going to move a significant part of the remaining areas towards the 15 minutes market time unit. I will come back to this in the next slide, where it's more visualized where the changes are. Then we have defined a final or a sixth wave, where particular areas will have their go live, which needs to be combined with the day ahead market coupling go live. So this is defined for Greece and external border of Greece with Bulgaria. So maybe if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, what I already indicated, we are starting the testing with a detailed plan, organizing the environments, etc. And from there, there will be the opportunity to participate as a market participant in the testing. The NEMOs, they will organize this for their members, following the particular waves where they will become active with the 15 minutes market time unit. So this overview provides you quite a detailed table which NEMO is in which wave, but on the next slide we will have a more detailed view per market area and per border. Of course, it's up to the NEMOs to approach you to participate in the test if you would like to participate. Yeah, the slide now on the screen is detailing by when which particular area will have its go live for the 50 minutes market time unit, as well as which border will have its go live on a particular moment. Whatever is indicated with a green flag implemented, yeah, it's clearly that's already in place. So we have to work for the upcoming, close to half a year to eliminate all black parts in this table. You already can see is that if you just have a look on the left table, that the Italian bidding zone border, for instance, will have its, or the Italian bidding zones will have their go live by the 1st of January 2025. Prior to that, of course, there is already in November, the Baltic area, which will have its go live. Then this is partially reflecting two things. Sorry, could you go back, please? On one hand, of course, it's showing by when the 50 minutes ISP will be implemented, and yeah, for that there are some early changes in 2025, just starting from 1st of January, but there are some latecomers, let's say it in that way, early in January still. Only the Swedish bidding zone, they will follow in March of next year. In the right part of this slide, you will find for each individual border by when the change will be implemented. And what you can see clearly is that most of it will be covered by the fifth wave, which will take place in March of next year. Then a huge number of borders will switch to the 50-minute resolution. So on the next slides, we present an overview of each individual wave. We start with the current situation where the green areas, these are the areas where the 50-minute market time unit is in place or will become in place. And the red lines on the borders, they are indicating which borders are on 50 minutes. So this is the starting point from basically earlier this year, where already quite a significant part is on the 50-minute resolution. If we move to the next slide, then this is the first change we will have actually from now on, concerning the Baltic area, where the complete Baltic area with their internal borders will have to go live. So that's a rather limited change, but of course, fully heading towards the intended setup. Then the next step we will have is this what we call the 4A wave, which concerns in particular the Italian bidding zones and the internal borders between these bidding zones. Then the next slide shows you the actual go live for mostly the Italian external borders, but as well the French area will have its go live. That does not imply that all external borders for France, for instance, are already on the 50 minutes. That comes at a later stage. So this is the plan to be in place for from the 22nd of January onwards. We move to the next one, then we are heading towards almost completion of the full effort, where the Iberian Peninsula is added, as well as the Norway region. And then we are also adding a lot of interconnectors with 50-minute resolution. Are still a few areas in gray. Could you go back, please, for a second to the previous one? Because this slide also clearly reflects where are the last parts to be migrated to the 50-minute market time unit. It's mostly about the Greek area. But there are still also a few interconnectors still on the 50 minutes market time unit. So then in the next slide, there is no clear date for the go live of the Greek area at the moment. Anyhow, it is clearly indicated by the Greek parties that this should be go live exactly at the same moment as the day-ahead market coupling is going live with the 50 minutes market time unit. And so we will have to wait until there is a formal date decided to have this go live. Then we only discussed so far the 50-minute market time units. That which basically implies that you can trade for each individual quarter of an hour with respect to the capacity allocation. That does not imply that all market time units themselves have exactly the same lead time for gate closure. The XBit solution in general works with an operational time unit, which at the moment is for quite some borders still on 60 minutes, which means that even if a border is formally in a 50 minutes market time unit, that market time units will close 4 by 4. So all 4 quarter hours from an hour will close exactly at the same time. You can have different trading across the border for each individual quarter hour at that moment, but the possibility to trade will stop 1 hour before the start of the next hour, actually. And that's one of the steps also to be included in this update of the systems. The operational time unit actually has to change for all interconnectors or all borders towards 50 minutes closure times. So that each individual market time unit will solely close separate from the other quarter hours in the same hour. And then you have for each individual market time unit exactly 60 minutes gate closure time before. So there will be a few borders where this 15 minutes operational time unit or the individual closure of market time units will last a little bit longer. That's really up to the parties involved on that particular border. Slides. Then, sorry.
We are now approaching the end of the SIDC dedicated slides and getting to the Nordic specific update. I don't know, Pierre and Thomas, if we can break in for questions here, or we can continue with the whole 15-minute section and only then get to the questions.
I think we can tackle some of them for the pure intraday 15 minutes part. We had one question on the French borders. If MTU, so resolutions, and OTU, the way the gates are closing, could be aligned on these French borders. Is it something we should log, Thomas, Jean-Michel, or can we already answer? Is there a target for that?
Okay, I'm just checking if we have Martin also in the call, because I know we have aligned this. If at least what we can do is we can log it as an action also, and I think indeed provide the concrete dates for the switch as a follow-up in the minutes. But if I'm not mistaken, this change on the French borders is foreseen in 26, according to the latest status. But I'm not sure, Martin or Jean-Michel, please step in.
Could confirm indeed that for French border, this is planned for Q1 2026.
For French and associates that Portuguese and Spanish also at the same time, or approximately.
But that's providing an answer, but I think giving this one, what we can take as an action is indeed add in our list the minutes, perhaps more detailed dates according to the status that we have when publishing them. I think that's an action we can take so that this provides clarity to market parties. If it's later, at least, then the go live as the MTU, which was indicated on the slide, because then it's the same date as was presented by Chris. Okay. Not sure if there are many other.
I see there is a question related to third countries as well that spans both over intraday and day ahead, but maybe the answer is the same. Will the cross-border capacity to third countries also be changed to 15-minute granularity in intraday and day ahead? If yes, when? I guess the answer depends on the country, but
yes, I think they don't have the obligation to do so. So it can be that they have an incentive to switch, but it's not the case. I know, for example, on the borders with UK, this is not per se the case that this will happen. Nor is it the case for the other countries. I think the reason why we're shifting to 50 minutes is because of the Green Energy Package regulation on European level. That's pushing us forward. And of course, on these borders with third countries, it's not applicable. So there is no per se timeline or a direct implementation plan to do so. But gradually, it could be the case. But there's no must or no obligation, hence also no direct timeline that is known.
Okay, maybe then going back to the presentation.
Yes.
We have Maria with us.
Yes, I think we will answer quite a vast majority of the questions after the day ahead part of the 15-minute presentation will have been done. Huh? So hold on for the questions. It will be answered in the coming dozens of minutes.
Thank you. I will shortly present you today some details of the Nordic region, as there are quite many changes coming in the coming month or the next year, and there are a bit confusing maybe the message what are to be used in previously, so we would like to now to clarify up to dates of the different changes and look at it that where we stand at the Nordics. So as previously has been communicated that the imbalance settlement period in the Nordic countries is implemented already. Now we have clarified that imbalance settlement period doesn't mean that the imbalance settlement prices are included in the 15 minutes time resolution. So that's to be coming in the March together with the 15 minutes cross-border trading. There are already intrazonal 15 minutes trading possibility in Finland, Sweden and Denmark, where the Norway is to follow on the 18th of March. The balancing reform, the energy activation market, MFFR EAM has planned to go live in January, February 25. Exact date is to be announced in 2 weeks' time now. So that's the pre-request for the Nordic region in order to go with the 15 minutes intraday cross-border trading as well on the imbalance pricing. At the same time, when we go with the 15 minutes intraday trading on cross-border, then also the transition to the 96 gate closest time. So all the 15 minutes products are closing in their own either the 1 hour before the 15 minutes market time unit is closed or later. And that's relates to the Finnish border mainly. The day ahead market go live is going to be happening together with the common day ahead 15 minutes go live. Then there are other changes in the Nordic countries where many of the connections are the HVDC links, so undersea links, and they have allocation constraints implemented already today, and changes of those are foreseen as well on the changes when we go with the 15 minutes time resolution. So this is the table on the below where we have listed what are the values used currently. Then there are changes applied, the new values, and then when the go live is going to happen. partially the new one is the Fennoskanto Finland Sweden 3 that was applied the new ramping value together with the Nordic flow-based go live. That's to be remaining the 600 megawatt for the day ahead 15 minutes and intraday go live. But then there are other borders that has been existing, the other limits on the ramping values that are then to be changed either when we go with the 15 minutes intraday cross-border trading or together with the MFFR EAM market go live. So that's shortly where we stand. Hopefully this clarifies the changes that is foreseen for the Nordic region, as well about the allocation constraints that are of course impacting to the market and to be taken into account. So the ramping values, the allocation constraint is to be aligned in a long term with the day ahead and intraday market. So that's why those changes are foreseen to be taken place. So to call reduction when we go with the 15 minutes intraday market at the latest from the current one. Even the day ahead market would remain the 16 minutes time resolution. So the ramping limits are to be decreased also on the day ahead market when the 15 minutes intraday is taken in place. Yes, I think that's from the update from the Nordic side on the resolutions and the times. Shall we look at the questions or take the next slides first?
I think there's one or two questions related to the Nordic topic. Just saw it passing by. Here, it's the bottom one. Is there a technical dependency between Nordic Go Live, the ISP price, and the 15-minute cross-border price?
Yes, there is a technical dependencies that regarding the MFFR EAM market that is shifting to the 15 minutes resolution. So that's prerequisite for the imbalance settlement price to set the 15 minutes. But there is a time foreseen to be need in between to get the stabilization of the energy activation market before the 15 minutes imbalance pricing is taken in the operations. So technical dependencies between the energy activation market and imbalance pricing.
Okay, I don't think there's any specific question further on the Nordic topic. So then I suggest.
Thomas, I don't see neither on the Nordics, but I see a question on the OTUs, which has been puzzling in the past indeed. So the question is, where in the regulation regarding the European power market is OTU or operational time unit defined? But I guess what we can say is that the OTU is the intraday cross-zonal gate closure time frequency, to clarify the concept. So it's differing from the scheduling step at the border. I think it was Chris who was mentioning that the OTU for France, for example, will remain will clear four quarters in one clearing, but each quarter can have different outputs. And the scheduling step at the border can be different for each of these quarters. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I hope so as well. And indeed, we know that it's a concept that is a bit it provided some unclarity. So what we did from TSO and NEMO side, at least in the previous MCCG session of October last year, so more or less a year ago, there was an explanation given on what really OTU is and where it comes from. I think it's not to answer directly the question, it's not a term that is defined as such. It's actually not really defined. There is an indication that you will have to align your gate closure time eventually with the 50 minutes. So that's why we are evolving to 96 gates of everywhere. But it's not a term that is defined as such. So it's one that we have defined. It's a term that it's a technical concept which has given a name. But to provide more questions on this, I suggest that everyone has a look on the detailed explanation that has been given by DSOs and NIMOs in the minutes of the MCCG of October last year. I think the link is on the slides that have been shared. That really gives a good overview of how it works. And then the concrete question, when it will happen, that's something that we have on the map. And where, let's say, the exact dates for those later than the MTU is something that we also then will add in the minutes so that it's clear for everyone. All right, I think as there are many of the other questions that are left are also related to day ahead, so I suggest we go to the next part of the 50 minutes, which will be presented by Adele and Benjamin. And then I hope this answers already a majority of the questions that are currently being listed. Can we go to the day ahead section of the slides? Yes, Adele, Benjamin, go ahead.
Yes, so first we will start with a global update on the test activities that have started. As you know, we have started already in June, but in October, the end-to-end functional testing has started with all NIMOs, TSOs, and regional providers. We have had some difficulties in the first week of the test where we encountered several critical issues, but for which we are working on. And we are continuing testing as we speak every day, sometimes with workarounds for tackling the issues and for tackling the systems not being fully ready. Because of that, we are today declaring a risk that we might not be able to reach the technical readiness at the end of March because those functional and procedural testing activities are ongoing and encounter a bit more issues than what we expected. But we are working as we speak on tackling what are the impacts on the planning to communicate a new planning in December with dates for go live dates and also dates for the central member testing. Why? Because this technical readiness that I just spoke about is needed to start the centrally coordinated member testing phase. So in the next slide, we will focus on providing you as much information as we currently have on two topics. We will focus first on the coupled member test, and we will also answer to the requests that have been sent to NIMOs on their individual test and their individual system availability. We just want to ensure you that right now we are discussed several times with the Market Participant Association to be sure that into this new replanning exercise, we take into account all the requests that were sent by market participants to have enough time between for the member test, for the different member test phase, and also reserves at the end of the completion of the member test phase and between the go live. So let's dive in, and thanks, Christina, you anticipated a bit my slide, but it's perfect. We wanted to start by giving you an update on the difference between the individual NIMOs member test and what we call the central or coupled member test. Just for that, we speak the same language. So basically, individual NIMOs member tests are there, organized by individual NIMO with their own market participants, and to verify that the market participant systems are well working and well functioning with the NIMO local trading systems. Their duration is flexible or depends on the individual NEMOs. And for that, we are working on a status that we will give you later in the slides. But as DAC, NEMOs, and TSO, we are not coordinating them as we do for the couple member tests. When we talk about couple member tests, we are talking about testing new functionalities and procedures with the objective of training the market participant to the new market condition. So basically, we are organizing those tests. We are defining scenarios validated in advance. We are defining a planning, and we have all NEMOs and relevant parties, meaning TSOs and regional systems, participating. And that's where on what we will focus in the next slide. So let's go. We can move to the next slide. After a lot of discussion that we have had with the market participant associations, we have defined some scenarios that we believe would be needed to be tested in an end-to-end centralized coordination way. And here you have the result of those discussions. So I just want to start by saying that we will try as much as we can to comply with all the market participant requests. Nevertheless, for some scenarios, we still need to have bilateral discussion on how to organize them. So what we are sure of is that the first scenario, so normal day, full decoupling, partial decoupling, bidding error management, and daylight saving time, we will organize them and we know how. But then the scenarios with specific order books, we need to discuss a bit more. Nevertheless, we are planning to perform them. It's just the how that we need to dig a bit more in it. So we will test opposite cross-border flows within the same hour, max mean price reached, no liquidity in a given time resolution, reaching the max number of blocks, and curtailment day. I would suggest that we don't dive into the detail of what needs to be clarified, but just a generic message that I wanted to pass here to the Market Participant Association. We would like a bit more clarification exactly for those last scenarios for which we have a question on what part of the process exactly market participant would like to test. So do you want to test market messages? Do you want to test NEMO system? Do you want to test files with specific results on it? And then we can discuss also bilaterally on those details, and it will help us to organize. We can go to the next slide, Christina. So just also to give you a bit of context, all those scenarios and a bit more will be tested in the previous test phase organized by NEMOs and TSO that we are currently performing. We are testing a test with specific order books. We are also testing specific processes that we are not necessarily testing during the member test. And we are testing different systems. We are performing for that technical test, procedural test, and a last test phase that we call acceptance. So all of that will have to happen and to be validated before we move forward with the couple member test, because we want to be sure that all systems are ready. We can go to the next slide. So as I was saying at the beginning, we are working on a new planning. Therefore, we are not able today to give you exact dates for the member test executions. Nevertheless, because we are still working on the planning, as I was saying, we wanted to give you an illustrative planning of what we are aiming to organize as couple member tests. So as I was saying, it will be the last test phase that is organized. And basically what we want to organize is having the test performed in approximately 6 weeks. It's also up to discussion. So we will take any inputs from the market participant associations or market participants. The idea that we had is to perform all those test scenarios in different weeks of the days to give you time in between each week of execution to fix your systems. And we are also planning to have at the end a contingency period to allow re-execution. So the idea would have, it leads us to 6 weeks. And I want to insist on the fact that because it is an illustrative planning, it does not take into account any bank holidays. So that will have to be added to this planning depending on when exactly the member tests are planned. But this is the idea, and then the order of the scenarios where we put the system updates days or the contingency, we can still rediscuss. But the duration, we would be grateful to have any feedback to be sure that you will have enough time. By working on the planning, we are also taking into account the allocated time that you requested between the end of those member tests and the go live. So between 3 weeks and 2 months was the duration, and that we will integrate into the planning, the final planning that we will present in December. That's it on the planning. Then a bit more information on the member tests. If we can go to the next slide. You asked us to provide capacity data production-like. So our proposal is to do so, to organize and to facilitate the provision of capacity data every day and on time. We are proposing to provide capacity data for day -7, meaning we would take production data from the previous week, same day the previous week, and we would convert it in 15 minutes as it's going to be the case after the go live. It will be similar to what I think market participant associations have called the parallel run. For that, you test under production-like condition. And for the timings for the member test, we just have reached a preliminary conclusion that we would like to test in the afternoon, and I think it was aligned with your request. And the order book gate closure times would be 2 in the afternoon for the normal day scenario, and 1 in the afternoon in case of full decoupling scenario. So this is just a preliminary conclusion. We will work exactly on the detail of the timings when we will have the planning and the order of the scenarios, but that just to give you an idea, and again a possibility to react if you are having any trouble or any feedback on those timings. Last, a small focus on the individual NEMO member test. So I'm coming back in time with those because, as I was saying, normally this test phase happens before the couple member test. After having discussed a bit internally and coordinating it at individual NEMO level, we have reached an overview of when you will have those individual member tests being scheduled with every individual NEMOs, and what are the high-level testing details. We are still missing the inputs for some NEMOs, but we are retrieving them, and we hope to send them into the final material. But basically, at least you have an overview. So the idea for market participants, as I was saying at the beginning, is you will have an individual member testing phase with every individual NEMO, and then we will move to the coupled member test phase when all the NEMO, TSO, and regional systems are ready and fully tested. I think that's it, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So I don't know if, Christina, you would like to go to the question, or if I believe, Pierre, you want to present this line before going to the question.
Yes, correct. So you heard the message from Adele. We basically, as NEMOs and TSOs, agreed to hear the requirements, especially from the associations. Selim will dive into that in a few minutes. For example, the gap between completion of the member testing and the go live itself, a few weeks were requested. It will be taken into account. Another requirement was as well what you see on the screen now, to align on some index. We are talking about the hourly price. You are aware that a vast majority of the bidding zone will still propose the hourly products in parallel of the introduction of the 15-minute granularity. And yes, NEMOs did cooperate over the last months to make sure that at go live, NEMOs are jointly cooperating to use the same, strictly the same price to be published on the different websites to reflect this hourly price. So this is not an information we are going to lose. I also convey another message because some questions are present in the chat. The public description of FEMIA, the SDAC algorithm, was published 3 months ago, beginning of August, on the NEMO committee website. It does contain all the mathematical rules associated with the 15-minute introduction, how hourly and 15 minutes or even 30 minutes product are linked through the so-called averaging rule. So this is very much highlighting how are basically cross-product matching or rejection acceptance of orders are implemented into the algorithm. But the message on the screen is that yes, we heard the requirements, NEMOs did cooperate, and the hourly price will be published. Besides what will be the real clearing price, obviously the 15 minutes one.
Thank you, Pierre. With this, I think we are at the end of the 15 minutes section. Before we go to the rollback, maybe then we can have a look at the questions and focus on those which have not been yet answered. So going from the top of the most relevant ones, I see this question is not yet answered.
Which one, Christina?
The when and how will the cross-nomination of long-term PTRs be initiated in 15 minutes resolution?
I think that's a question which is more, let's say, for TSOs. I think there is no direct date foreseen for this, as actually the switch to 15 minutes is foreseen for the trades. It is not the case for the capacity calculation, and it's also not for the PTRs. So there is, to my knowledge, no date that is set in regulation to do so. So there is also no concrete timeline to switch as such at the moment.
I think, Christina, in the most voted questions, some are not answered. First one being, when will be the launch of the 15 minutes MTU in Stack? Most likely, most probable, mid or end of March or during Q4 2025. I understand from the presentation that you are reluctant on putting a date today, and that you suggest to give clarity on that end of December. But what is behind that question is that end of December will be late for market participants that are there are developments that are ongoing. There are financial and time constraints that are put on the teams for executing those developments. So there is a need as well to know that if the go live date that is foreseen today is not the right one, that we get this information as fast as possible. So if it's already likely that we have a 1 month delay, then it's an information that we would want to have.
Maybe before I let the experts, please, then Adele. I just wanted to highlight maybe that we already have a preliminary answer, but I understand this is not a concrete one. It says that the central member test and go-live dates will be communicated in December 2024. But please, Adele, that was a bit of an extended question.
I was about to say the same. So basically, because we know already that the readiness might not be reached by end of March, for sure the launch cannot be mid or end of March. It will be later. But then giving you a quarter today, we would be more at ease to have really worked on a planning, give it in December, and then being sure about what we declare, I would say. And I will take another question related to that, the third one on the screen. Would it be possible to launch 15 minutes on first day of the month? For re-evaluating the planning, we are also taking this requirement that we are aware of to evaluate different options for the go live. So we are trying to use every input we have on the member test, on the time needed between end of member test and go live, also on the go live date, and to provide you a planning at the beginning of December.
I will overbid on this question. I think we've made the feedback from Euroelectric and Energy Traders Europe on that we would prefer it to be at the beginning of a quarter more than just the beginning of a month because of contracting issue or contractual issues if the change happens in the middle of a quarter.
Noted.
Yes, and perhaps a question I can shortly take the second one. Sorry, Christina. It's to some extent also answered, but I'm not sure who answered it because it's someone anonymous that answered. So I'm not sure if it's answered by someone of the moderators. If so, the case, please add your name. Then it's clear.
It was me, Thomas.
Okay, that's good. All right, that also then that would be good if from our side we answer it. But indeed, I think I can confirm the answer given that we will switch also to 15 minutes for the payouts, which is something that then will be managed by Chao as the settlement entity for the FTRs. But that's the way forward. That also the payouts over there will switch to 15 minutes. So that can be. I can confirm the answer given, and then good, Benjamin, it was you that was able to answer it.
I don't know why I'm shown as anonymous. That's something to be prepared for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think you can check when you answer if you do it on your name or not.
Okay, I will check that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Then we can perhaps go to some next questions. Can we go one by one, Christina? Because I think you skipped some already right now, at least.
Yes, I only skipped it because it is mentioning IDAs, and I imagine this would be better to take once we get to the IDA topic. But if you feel like going one by one, please,
yeah,
we can do so.
Then we say that indeed that would make sense that we just highlight that indeed it will be then done. But then at least instead of rushing through it, indicates that this will be answered in the IDA section. I think there was then some other questions also on the cross-zonal nomination and the PTRs to be initiated on 50 minutes, which indeed is correct that this is a question that we are not in charge of as MCSC, which is more a matter for the respective TSOs, which is the case already in some countries, not for others. So I think that's not something where, at least on our side, we're able to answer to a full extent for all borders at the moment. So that's I think that's going back to this slide in the beginning, what is within scope or what is not in scope of our project. So that's perhaps not the answer that you provide, but it's better that you get the answer from the parties that is knowledgeable on it rather than getting one that is wrong. Okay. I think then we are in the IDAs. The reasoning for not having ODU or MDU aligned, I think it's the reason for switching ODU is also a parameter that is being decided by the respective TSOs. So it's up to the respective TSOs to indicate whether their systems are also ready to accommodate such a change. And it's about, let's say, the technical readiness then on their side that it can be later. As short as that. On the terminology page, it's a good question actually. I'm not sure if we have an acronym list somewhere already on our MCCG webpage, but I think it's a general one that we can perhaps take into account. As of course we are quite familiar with many of the terms and they are thus reused quite frequently, but it can be useful perhaps to check if we have such a list already. Then are you planning the transition period after launch of 50-minute trading where both 50-minute and 60 trading will be available? And perhaps Pierre, that's one more for you, or at least it's a more Nemo related topic. I guess the answer is yes, that both 50 minutes and 60 is possible. It will continue to be.
Correct. So you got a map, a clear map from the NEMOs in the previous MCCG. So we will put the link to the document. Every NEMO informed through this slide deck, yes or no, are they going to keep the hourly product after the introduction of the 15? So it is an information that is available. And yes, the vast majority of the NEMOs are proposing this multi-time resolution trading. Not sure what you mean by transition period. There will be one go live, but it is not a strict switch for the vast majority of the bidding zone, in a way that market participants still can use the hourly product if they wish. Again, I will put in the answer the clear map we have highlighted. It is only true for the vast majority of the bidding zones. So there will be a cross-product matching. I refer here to the averaging rule of the central algorithm, which is linking, of course, the hourly and 15 minutes price. We do not have uncorrelated two merit orders. Obviously, everything is linked within the algo. So I will answer this, but I already answered quite the same in some others questions. I will do it again.
Thank you, Pierre.
Yes, I think indeed, and that's exactly. I think for this one, as Pierre mentioned, it's really the map previously really shows this. I think for some clarification, this was indeed something that we discussed also in the MCCGs in 23, as it was a key point that we got from market participants indeed, that to be able to trade both, while initially purely from a performance perspective from the algorithm, this was a challenge. From our side, we try to accommodate this request, that at least from the algorithm perspective, it's feasible. And that's also why I'd say once there is the go live, we will switch to 50 minutes. But from your side, you will be able to continue trading on 60 minutes, at least in all bidding zones, I think, except Spain and Portugal. Over there, it will be a hard switch, as indicated. And that's something that we try to accommodate also, which is an outcome, say, of the discussions we had within MCCG after clearly having received this request to be able to have such an dual trading on different timeframes. And I think this one here,
Or 30 minutes. Yeah. So again, I will refer to the very same map, because it is indicating which NEMOs or bidding zone will be proposing this 30 minutes product. It will not be in every bidding zone. So please refer to the map we will indicate. NEMOs clearly cooperated on the hourly index. There was no clear request to have this 30 minutes index being built. So it is not as straightforward. I will check within the NEMO community if it is planned or necessary. But I will also refer to the fact that not all NEMOs are even proposing the 30 minutes product. So it will not be in all bidding zones except Spain. Many NEMO will not be proposing this product, which is a bit of less used. I will come back to that in a detail in the answer.
Maybe on that, Pierre, do you know when and how? I mean, through what means will the methodology to calculate those index prices be published, be communicated?
So you basically would like, in addition to the announcement we make this morning, to get a formula, right? And some description of, I saw a question on number of decimals. For example, you would like this clear description to be implemented, right?
I think it would be useful indeed.
Yes. We'll at least we can put it in the Q&A document, so serving as meeting minutes of this meeting. That is the first fact. I'm sure that every NEMO will again, of course, tackle this in their bilateral channel with their membership. But I will coordinate with the NEMOs to put this formula and description in the Q&A document of this session today.
I think in general, there are a lot of questions that are related to products, how this works. I think here, again, I would really emphasize to have a look on the detailed description that has been provided by Nemos on the algorithm and how this really works. So I think that's something some of the questions are already answering and providing a link to that one. So that's it's not part of our session here today, but it's an action that we took based on the previous exchanges and something that we provided, Nemos provided already, which gives you all the details. So I really suggest to have a look into that one. If there continue to be questions, do not hesitate to reach out, of course, to your Nemo directly as a client. I think on this one, a place where we find all these go live dates, I think they are indeed provided in the session files that we have, which are published. So that's always the most recent status that we have. And as we have these session files more regularly, the latest status can be provided over there. We try to therefore just find a balance on when publishing it, so that you have from your side the most recent status. So I think the answer is given in some of the questions already.
The ISP target question, which was just promoted up, and we haven't had this yet.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Indeed, switching to ISPs is something that's then done on the country level, and those means that TSOs will settle on this period. Indeed, it's of course a decision then for the respective TSOs to do so, but it means indeed that your settlement will be done according to the time frame of your ISP, which indeed can mean that it's not the same yet as your MTU. I would say if there are really, for those countries where this is indeed the case, because it's normally the other way around, but for those countries where this might be where this is indeed the case, it's something that we can answer, but I suggest that as a member being active in these countries, it would be more opportune to direct this to your TSO itself. But in principle, what is stated here is correct. We check, do we still have, doing a time check, we still have some time for the questions or actually not?
It would be good if we slowly move to the rollback. As
yes, I suggest, because some of the questions are also tackling that one. So I would suggest we try to continue answer some of them in the chat itself. Otherwise, but indeed with an eye on the time, because it would be good to still continue to this one. Yes. Okay, Adele, Benjamin, go ahead.
This one will be for me.
Yeah.
Can we move to the next slide, please? Christina, thank you. So as Adele explained, we've been working on the testing and the implementation of the 15 minutes in their head. In addition to that, Adele, myself, and our group, the Quality and Release Management Group, we are also preparing an action plan in case of an incident occurs after the go live of 15 minutes. I think most of you are familiar with the concept of rollback with your long experience in market coupling. This was applied in many, many other projects. So here again, we are planning a potential rollback in case the 15 minutes doesn't go well. This will be concretely setting back the systems to their pre-go live status. So removing the 15 minutes MTU possibility. Maybe give you more details on the timeline first. So as from the first trading day in 15 minutes in their head, over a period of 2 weeks, there is the possibility for the Market Coupling Steering Committee to request the activation of the 15 minutes rollback. So rollback to 60 minutes, sorry. What's important to note is that over this period of 2 weeks, then the decommissioning of the 60 minutes related systems and functionality will not be done. So that's something to be taken into account for your companies, that the decommissioning will only take place after 2 weeks after the go live, without incident has passed. The deadline has passed. So again, as from first trading day, over a period of 2 weeks, the rollback can be activated. A few words maybe on the validation and triggering process of this rollback. So over this period of 7 days consecutive, if we have some triggering events that we are defining at the moment, and we'll present them in the next slide. So if triggering events take place, an investigation will be immediately started and conducted, which will result in a Market Coupling Steering Committee decision to roll back. What's important to note for you is that we are also working on a communication plan for this that will include not only how the implementation will take place, but also the next trading day for which the 15 minutes will no longer be available, and the order books has to be submitted in 60 minutes only. Can we move to the next slide, please, Christina? Thank you very much. A few more details and information on this validation process and the triggering events. As I was briefly explained before, what we have defined for now is that in case, let's say, starting from the first trading day in 15 minutes, so first day ahead trading in 15 minutes, if over a period of 7 days rolling period, so we have full or partial decoupling due to an incident regarding the central original assets happening, a rollback process can be started. How will this be decided? So the operational committee, SDAC operational committee, will investigate the incident. First of all, we have to make sure that the incident relates to the 15 minutes implementation and not to any other problem that has nothing to do with the 15 minutes implementation. After identifying the problem, reproduction has to be done, and root cause analysis of the incident has to be performed. Based on this, the Market Coupling Steering Committee will receive the recommendation to roll back and will decide on the activation date. Of course, it's important for everyone to have time to adapt back their systems, I should say, revert back to the 60 minutes trading. This is also the reason why nothing will be decommissioned over a period of 2 weeks, so we can actually move back. Taken into consideration your recommendations that we received before, the date of the activation will be, so the first trading day after the rollback setup will be a working day and not a weekend or a public holiday, if any. Regarding the next steps, it's important to note that the NEMOs and the TSOs are now gathering the required lead time for implementing the rollback, as well as the technical impact and blocking points for every party. What's important to note also is that most probably the SDAC OPSCOM, for sure the SDAC OPSCOM is preparing the procedures, but most probably will be in contact with market participants' representatives or directly with market participants in order to make sure how you foresee the communication and what are the requirements or the important aspects for you for this rollback. So don't hesitate to contact your representatives and contact also the SDAC OPSCOM when they do so to make sure that everything is prepared well. That's it for the rollback. maybe we can move on to some. I've seen some questions regarding the rollback already in the chat, so maybe we can move on to that.
There is a question indeed. When will the rollback and fallback procedures be published in case that the 15 minutes go live in Stack and SIDC encounter issues?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that, I'll add to that question, you mentioned that 60 minutes IT systems won't be decommissioned, but are you referring there to central systems, or also to local NEMO systems? Part of local NEMO systems, what were you precisely referring to there?
Central systems for sure. Pierre, Adele, just help me out here for the local systems.
Also the local systems, indeed. All systems will be kept during this rollback period, ready to be reactivated if need be.
And maybe regarding the question, so when the rollback procedures will be published, so the SDAC Opscom is currently working on the procedures. We at the CARM level, we're working on the rollback framework, which will define more precisely the timeline and the triggering events. So our goal is to publish it as soon as possible, of course, but no, we don't have a clear timeline, but hopefully several months before go live.
So indeed, just to wrap up, two main messages from Benjamin. There will be a rollback. We go back to the state of systems as they were the day before the introduction of this 15 minutes granularity into the stack. And point two, rollback means please do not decommission too quickly, dear market participants, some assets you might need to still live in a world where only the hourly resolutions will be proposed. Because it could come back in case of very critical issues. Please wait for the end of this rollback period before doing so.
So that's, again, thank you, Pierre, for your addition. So that's, again, 2 weeks following the first trading day. So if trading day is on a Monday, then for the next 2 weeks, keep the systems up, please. Thank you. I don't know if there's any other questions regarding the rollback.
Yeah, there is one last one that popped in. It's here on the bottom. Does it mean there will be no rollback possible after 2 weeks after go live?
That is the plan. Yes.
That's the common practice indeed, as you indicated, that we have always this 2-week period, and if there's no events happening after that one, we leave it behind. So that it's not specifically for the 50 minutes, it's the common practice.
Common practice, yes. Okay.
Maybe a quick comment on this. So we take note of the message there. We understand the situation, but I'd just like to share a concern or a question mark there on whether or not this is actually feasible. I mean, we're working on market participant side to move everything, all of our systems to the 15 minutes. And there may be some questions on how compatible an optimization of a portfolio at the 15 minutes is with submitting our book orders or the book, sorry, to the system on the 60 minutes, for example. So yeah, there may be some questions there on the feasibility of this rollback.
And this is why we really encourage you to so probably the market participant will be in contact with you, Salim, so you can report back to us and the Opscom on what are the challenges for market participants and how we can integrate them. Thank you. Okay, if that's it, then I suggest we move on, Christina.
Indeed.
Thank you.
So the next up is the section on the questions and feedback from market parties on the SDAC and SIDC 15-minute MTU, where we start with the slides from market parties. So if Salim, you can present, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Christina. So Oh, this isn't my slide.
Yeah, no, this I was about to say. So this is not your slide, but I think
Okay.
it's
Apologies.
just as an intro. So I think there are, and it's, let's say, a consequence of the way how we ordered it. So we provided quite some answers already in the previous sections, and I think indeed we have been aligning with Salim and his colleagues quite extensively. So we try to at least provide some answers on some of the questions that we have been tackling already. So I think that's why some of the questions you might see are already tackled. And I think this is just giving some further clarification. I'm not sure if we really have to spend some time. We're already a bit behind schedule, so I will leave it there. But it was just to indicate that we have already tackled some of this and have, of course, been exchanging quite extensively already with Selim and his colleagues on EFET and the electric side. Sorry. Selim, I think you can go ahead.
Yes, I was about to say just that. So thank you, Thomas. Indeed, we've raised these points already in the past a few weeks, if not months ago. So indeed, we can see today that some of them have found an answer, and we're very grateful for that. But at the same time, some didn't, and the message also, these messages weren't shared in the MCCG, so we thought it was useful still to do so. Maybe going to the presentation now. So well, echoing what I just said, one point that still is yet to be answered is on the 15-minute go live and planning. We continue to have strong concerns over the lack of details that are provided by some NEMOs on the 15-minute implementation. The second point maybe is something that you've largely answered in the presentation. There were some, I think there were two NEMOs that were attaching the go lives, the 15-minute go lives for Stack and intraday, and we had concerns on that linking that could link to cascading effects in case of Stack go live delay, which seems to be likely today. So we understand that at least one of these NEMOs has dropped this linking, but I think it was Chris who's maintained it. So that would be for the general messages. For the way forward, we suggest that a standardized and coordinated checklist between all NEMOs is put together. The idea there is that even though there are some actions to be taken at the local level by the NEMOs to make sure that all the market participants are ready, we have to coordinate. We have to look at the European level, whether or not those actions are taken and whether or not they are taken in a sort of harmonized way to ensure that there is a level playing field between the market participants. So we think that this checklist would ensure both of those objectives. We've put together a first sample of that checklist. Is probably not complete, but it was there to put ideas on the table. We'll come back to that later. So the second recommendation or message is that NEMOs and regulatory authorities must ensure that we have enough time on market participant side to conduct all the developments that are needed. Once the technical details are released, we need enough time to be able to perform the developments on our side. So obviously, some things are, I would say, in-house, and we can develop without these information. But we also depend on the release of those technical details for example, IT communication systems, etc. So we need time for the developments, and we need time for the testing, both member testing and real condition testing. And final message, we're still missing an official confirmation of the go live date. I was mentioning that earlier, and the current level of information, and specifically the last messages that we received give little trust in the planning we've had so far, and yet we have developments going on our side, and to be planned also further new developments, and that requires planning, that puts pressure on our teams, that puts financial pressure as well. So all the information that can be provided on the what will be the actual planning would be welcome, and more than welcome would be needed. That would be it for this slide, and the next one, as I was mentioning, it was just a to put forward a tentative checklist framework. With items to be performed by all NEMOs on the right side of the screen, but as well, as I was mentioning, actions to be taken on the NEMO, local NEMO side. But the idea here is to know where we are at with each NEMO on each of these very important action points. I'll not go into the details of this slide. And here it was focusing on the testing, but we have had some answers from Adele, so thank you for that again. So we need development time before the member testing, again, to be sure that we are ready, and we also need some time after or during the member testing, in a sort of learning curve, to make sure that we are learning from every mistake, every issue that we encounter, and that we have time to accommodate for that. And we suggested also that the member testing would take place in two steps. One first step, technical test for the platform access. I don't recall what was the denomination on Adele, but I think it was individual NEMO member test or something like that. I think it corresponds to that, where we access to the environment, and we're able to test communication channels, for example. And then the second step would be the full process testing, and I think it was the coupled member test in your vocabulary. So that two-step approach could help span over all the tests that are required. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the last slide on my end. Oh no, sorry, there is an last one. Well, I think looking at what Adele was presenting, I'm not sure it's worth going through all these details. We're proposing some scenarios to be tested within each of these phases. I think you've covered most of them, Adele. In being mindful of time, I'll not go into those details. Oh yeah, sorry. And the very bottom of the slide, we mentioned that again, that we needed time to integrate the feedback of the amended testing. I understand that you suggest intertwining those feedback timings within the test, not leaving it everything to the end of the testing phase. Well, we'll have to consider that, but I think it's also an interesting way forward.
Yep.
Thank you, Selim. So indeed, the NEMOs can confirm that we took your requirements seriously, together with the TSOs, of course, on this testing phasing and sequential approaches, especially the let's say, the freeze between completion of testing and go live. We will take it into account. It's a question of weeks now before we are proposing this firm go live date for the SDAC perimeter next year. For the testing scenarios, it was taken into account already. Benjamin and Adele reported it already today. So it will be part of the end-to-end central member test phase of the SDAC during the few weeks of testing. And this requirements to align on some indexes and publication. So it goes from the algorithm public description, it was done in August, or a product offering, it was done already in the first semester. We coordinated among the NEMOs. We do it now for this hourly price. So what you see basically today and since February is a direct result of this cooperation we have on this specific 15 minutes topic. So we continue to align everywhere we can to bring these infos.
Thank you. Now we are reaching the end of the 15 minutes topic, which is followed by the decoupling event on the SDAC side. I'll leave it up to you whether we would revisit the questions now or try to tackle this topic of decouplings before the coffee break, which is scheduled for 10:50.
Yeah, I think we answered already quite some questions, to be honest. I think we're almost 20 minutes behind schedule. So unless there, I think from Pierre or Salim's side, you think there's one burning, I would suggest we continue with answering a lot of them still via the chat directly, and we continue with the session. It will be hard otherwise to still foresee any time for the subsequent topics. So I suggest we go to the next agenda slide. And as mentioned, we will come back to the questions in the Q&A session as up. Do we have Louisa and Pound in the call for the presentation?
Yes, good morning. I can start and Balint can support maybe if there is a need. So yeah, we have on the agenda some information about the two partial decoupling cases we had in June and July. So we can directly go there. Yes. Okay, so this is about the first one that occurred this year. It's about the decoupling, partial decoupling occurring on the 25th of June, where IPEX was decoupled from the SDAC auction at 1:05, which is the current partial decoupling deadline. It was due to missing order books, so for the core and Nordic region of IPEX. The order books were not submitted on time due to local issues, and hence decoupling was declared. As you may know already, for the Nordic region, there is a strong requirement that the Nordic areas always remain coupled. This means that this includes the fact that the Nordic NEMOs have to remain coupled between them at all times. This was also why you may have wondered why MCO, NORPO, was removed as well from the coupling with respect to their Nordic areas. It's exactly for this reason, because outside the SDAC auction, in the afternoon, there has to be a Nordic regional coupling organized between the Nordic NEMOs, in this case IPEX and NORPO. So coming back to the SDAC auction itself, so there was a partial decoupling declared at 1:05. This was, of course, associated with shadow auctions that were run and published on the corresponding interconnectors that you can see here on the slide. The shadow auction concerned mainly the interconnectors between the Nordic region and the continental Europe. And the rest of the areas in SDAC were remaining coupled. So again, without EPEX core, EPEX Nordics, and without Nord the Nordic part. And for the rest of the areas remaining coupled, there was a regular session. It's just that, of course, with delayed timings. And the final market coupling results were published, as you can see in the slide, around 2:09, which is actually sort of a usual publication time in case of partial decoupling. So it's not at all unusual to have results so close to the full decoupling deadline, which is, I remind this for everyone, 2:20. We already know that in case of partial decoupling, there is pretty a small margin to run a coupled session until the full decoupling deadline. So having results, final results published around 2:10 is actually a really good situation. Due to the same local issue at EPEX spot side, there was also an impact on the Pan-European IDA3 auction of the same morning. And of course, also on the Pan-European IDA1 auction of the afternoon of the same day, where EPEX spot was decoupled with all its areas. And again, Nord was also decoupled, but only with the Nordic bidding zones for the same reason as mentioned earlier, because the two NEMOs had to focus on running a Nordic regional coupling for the day-ahead auction. And actually that part was done successfully. Results for the Nordic regional coupling were published around 6 in the afternoon, as far as I recall, knowing that the deadline for that regional coupling is 8 in the evening. So there was some margin left. Of course, this was possible because the issue on EPEX spot side was solved, so that it allowed EPEX spot and Nord to run this regional coupling in the afternoon. The next SDAC coupling session was running as normal because the issue on EPEX spot side was fixed, as I said, already on the afternoon of the incident. Of course, following this incident, but also the next one, which we will see in a second, some work was already initiated to improve the communication process during decoupling incidents, and some procedures, operational procedures, have already been updated and improved. And of course, also we will make even more efforts to have a better understanding, let's say, on the market party side of decoupling scenarios and how this could impact them and how to be better prepared if this happens in production. So we can maybe also go to the next one before we take questions. So this the next one was actually 1 month later in July. There was the partial decoupling of OTE, so the Czech Republic. It was also due to a local issue on the NEMO side, in the local trading system. This also prevented the Czech NEMO to submit the order book before the decoupling deadline, which is 105, as initially stated. There were, in this case, there were some shadow auctions also organized, and communication towards market participants, and also the shadow auction process worked very well, especially on this case. Of course, there was a need to update the core capacities and switch them from a flow-based parameters to ATC values due to this decoupling within the core region. The market coupling results, the final market coupling results were published at around 2:15. So again, pretty normal given the situation. So the rest of the session for the coupled NEMOs was running as usual, but with delayed timings. On the intraday auction side, there was an impact, of course, on the IDA3 auction of the same morning, where OT was also decoupled, and also on the intraday auction 1 from the afternoon of the same day, due to the same issue. Afterwards, OT fixed the issue on the same afternoon, which means that the rest of the sessions, including the next SDAC auction, could be run normally. Of course, what is written below is that these unfortunate issues can happen. All the NEMOs are doing their best to ensure that the deployment in production of system upgrades or fixes is done in a way in which it doesn't harm the coupling session. But yeah, we can never be, as we know, fully bulletproof for this kind of issues. So this is why we also need to be ready to properly apply these kind of operational procedures if issues happen. So we had these two decoupling cases pretty close to one another, but we can still say that they remain pretty limited, isolated. If we look at the whole year with the auctions running every day of the year, and also taking into consideration that we have tens of parties, NEMOs and TSOs taking part in this coupling, and tens of systems and connections, I think we can understand that despite all the efforts that are being placed, and we will see some of them on the next slide, we still have to be ready for applying this kind of operational procedures. This is why it is important to have clear processes, but also to have training in place for both operators on NEMOs and TSO side, also training for market participants, and maybe also clear rules on how these decoupling cases are handled, so that everyone is aware of them. Yes, and this is just a follow-up. So basically, after these two incidents, we started some important work between NEMOs and TSOs to see what we can do to further improve the communication process in case of incident, especially in case of decoupling situations. This means looking at several things we can improve. For instance, what is the process of sending out messages during the incident itself, and if there is any way of clarifying the message content already. So, for instance, we thought about having a link added between the decoupling situation and the shadow auction process, so that we give let's say a heads up to market participants to make sure they don't miss to update their bids on the shadow auction platform on JAO. This is just an example of things that we thought of adding. And other kinds of improvements, like not only messages during the incident, but also the improvement of the public report that is published on the NSOE website after the incident occurred, and so on. So we have looked at several issues that should be improved. We came up with maybe 20 solutions for all these issues. Of course, this was the work of an expert group composed of NEMOs and TSOs, and now it needs to go through a round of validations, but first at OPSCOM level and then at the steering committee level. So there is still some alignment needed and some validation process. But at least a lot of work has already been done for this, and we hope most of the solutions that we have proposed to the OPSCOM will be validated, so we can go further in a more serene way during the next incidents, which hopefully will not be very soon. That's it, I think. This was the last slide for me.
Thanks, Luisa. Maybe a quick question on my end. If those recommendations are adopted by MCSC, when do you think they will be published or shared publicly?
Good question. Normally there is an MCSC meeting in this month, later this month. It's just that we would need to have approval from the ESDAC OPSCOM before, and I cannot promise that we will have this already because some questions are already raised, and for some of them at least we may have some issues to implement. So hopefully we can maybe dissociate and have some quick wins already discussed and approved in the next MCSC, and maybe leave for later the ones that require more discussion and negotiation. Sorry, I cannot give you a better answer for that. I assume if it's validated in the next MCSC, at least some of them can be already shared quickly after. I don't see any problem for that.
Thanks. Should I go through the slides before the questions, or would you want to tackle the questions in the chat before?
Suggest you go quickly through them, and then I think we combine questions after the pack. Then we can also check how many times how much we are behind, or so go ahead.
Okay. So again, the statement that I made previously is also true for that. These are messages that we've shared with the MCSC already a few months ago, a few weeks ago. But maybe for the problems statement, I won't come back again on the events, but we found that they had several adverse consequences. The first one being the confusing communication. There were sometimes very frequent messages that weren't always very clear. And most importantly, those messages from the related NEMO were in contradiction with messages that could be received through JAO, and that added confusion to the confusion. That would be for the first consequence. The second one is that the situation in the case of EPEX, the situation led to two prices in several bidding zones, which is problematic for different settlements. The contracts that are indexed on one or the other price, the settlement of LTTRs, the settlement of public instruments such as renewable subsidies. And third, market participants lacked visibility on the whole market to adjust their schedule. So in a lot of situations, we had to rely fully on the intraday to get this picture and to get coherent schedules related to the system situation. And maybe lastly, on the problem statement, after the incident, there has been reports published on those, but there are still missing elements, details on the technical issues that occurred, and reaction on and the measures taken from an IT perspective to make sure that those issues don't happen again. On the availability of backup systems, and on all the recommendations that will be drawn out of that. But I see that there is already work on that. Maybe going to the next slide. So this is for our suggestion for the way forward. So the first axis of work would be to give the market coupling the best chance to succeed and avoid these decoupling events at maybe not at any cost, but as much as possible. So the first idea, and as mentioned here, this is not an exhaustive list. This is not a comprehensive list, but at least those points should be tackled. Considering moving the TSO nomination deadlines would be a first idea to allow the stack to process for a longer time than today. That proposal raises some questions. For example, would it have been useful in the past decoupling sessions to have more time for the stack, or wasn't it anyway there wasn't anyway no possibility to ensure the coupling within even if we had provided an extra 2 hours or 3 hours. The second set of questions is it possible to know whether or not more time will allow solving the issue that is presenting itself? That would be in the idea of ensuring that we don't disrupt subsequent processes for nothing. And the last question, what is the point for the core TSOs to maintain the nomination deadlines at current timings when the nominations will likely be off target if we haven't managed to have a full coupling, so we have only a partial view of the system. That would be for the first option of work. The second one is to investigate the improvements that could be made on NEMO IT processes and tools. So again, which system were faulty? Can we have more backups? Can we double communication channels, etc., etc. And the last one is not directly related to the issue at stake, but we have to think more broadly to what are all the categories, families of issues that can present themselves, and this one would be to reinforce the detection of erroneous speeds. So in relation to the deletion of the second auction. Replaced by the second calculation, obviously, we're still keeping some systems, checking systems. Second, investigate remedies that would allow to avoid two prices in case of decoupling. So maybe the operational procedures in case of decoupling can be reviewed to make sure that we have, at least for a given zone, only one price, even when there are a multi-NEMO agreement. That is again to avoid the issues on the settlements that I was mentioning earlier. And third, recommendation would be making communication clearer and harmonized in case of decoupling. On the next slide. So here is a forward-looking slide on how do we proceed when there is actually a decoupling. So this slide is not a position statement. We've listed here possible ways to organize the auctions and the coupling and the decoupling when it happens. but this list may not be comprehensive. There may be other options than those ones, and having options listed here doesn't mean that as market participant we endorse them, but we just think that it's the starting point of the discussion on how we proceed forward in those occurrences where decoupling do happens. And we've looked at those 4 solutions and we've compared them on 3 criteria that we've set up. So the first one is the price. Is this option able to allow a single price in a given bidding zone where there is a M&A? The second criteria is the volumes or the schedules. Do we have clearer, more relevant schedules going out of the coupling or of whatever happens in case of decoupling? But do we have a feedback for market participants that is consistent with the state of the system? And the last one is, are we able to have an efficient allocation of cross-border capacity with that given solution? And I won't go through all the details of the table, but just to mention the solutions. So the first one is to maintain the current framework, so having a local auction in parallel of the coupled auction. The second one would be to not have a local auction, and that only the NEMO that is able to reach the central platform would make the price of the given zone. So that answers the single price issue, but it leaves some market participants without feedback. So that raises some concerns. The third solution would be to have one local auction with all local order books. So we sort of sacrifice the coupling, at least for that for a given bidding zone, but we have a comprehensive view within the given bidding zone as we've merged all local order books. And the last range of solutions would be that we haven't a decoupling. We make sure that even in difficult situations, we are still able to reach a coupling somehow. So that would be, for example, taking D-2 order books. But that raises issues in case the decoupling happens for the delivery day or Saturday delivery day. If you take the order books of the Friday, then you have obviously a mismatch in the schedules and in the cross-border capacity allocation. An alternative solution would be to have reference order books. So in that case, for example, market participants could submit every day order books, both for the next day, for the real stack, if I may say, and for the following day in case a decoupling happens. So at least the information that is submitted would be more outdated because it would be a view from a D-2, but at least it would be for the right delivery day. Voilà for the 4 options that are on the table. And again, I think it was my last slide, but I hope I didn't miss another one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think for some of those questions we may already have answers, and for the others we will need to reflect on how to provide you with the best answer, but all of them have been noted down, and you will have the feedback as soon as possible.
So Selim, one word from the NEMOs. It's obviously a very complex transversal topic, this decoupling management between IT system landscape, regulatory frameworks, and operational processes. Things were already done in 2024, as highlighted already by Luisa, especially targeting here the messages, the operational messages that market participants are receiving in such critical situations. So this task was tackled by TSOs and NEMOs already. On the solution, TSOs and NEMOs also concur with the fact that there is no silver bullet, obviously. Otherwise, we would have implemented it already a decade ago. But still, there is room for improvement. And as we speak, NEMOs are cooperating among each other. TSOs and NEMOs are cooperating with authorities as we speak to potentially improve the current situation. So we might communicate on it. We are not at this stage yet. Discussions are ongoing, but we are working on this topic, obviously, since summer already.
Good. Thank you very much all for your inputs. Looking at the time, perhaps I would suggest now to break. And as Thomas suggested before, we could have a look in the meantime on the questions and on the rest of the agenda to see what makes sense to start with after the break. If I may suggest, we had planned for 10 minutes, but perhaps 7 minutes would be sufficient. So that would mean that we would meet back at around 11:15.
Yes,
And
that
then
would
we
also
would.
have been my suggestion. So I would say we reconvene at 11:15 for a short break. Okay.
Thank you very much. See you in a moment.
Okay. So I think we had a break right now, knowing that we are 15 minutes behind schedule. We would suggest we continue directly, at least with the question, with the next agenda topic. And we after that one we'll try to combine, let's say, the questions on the two previous ones. If ideally we have managed to catch up some time. So then give the floor to Dalila and Martin from SIDC Opscom for presenting the first months of operations of the IDA.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, all. This is Dalila from OMIE, and I will provide information on behalf of Opscom as NEMO Opscom Chair. In these sections related to the SATC IDA market, the main purpose is to analyze the results of the first months of IDA operations. In the first part, the analysis will be performed from an operational point of view, performing an analysis of the number of successfully IDAs compared to the number of the failed IDAs. In the second part of the presentation, the analysis will be performed from a trading volume perspective. And in the last part, we will analyze the further IDA improvements. Well, we will start with the first part, the analysis from an operational point of view. Since the IDA go live last 13th of June, taking 31st of October as a reference date, a total of 422 sessions have been completed successfully, publishing the results to market participants on time, resulting in a high IDA availability rate of 97.16%. Of the total number of IDA sessions executed, 422, only 12 IDAs has been cancelled, where no results were published at all. And during 12 IDAs, we experienced decoupling cases, counting automatic partial decoupling and decoupling in advanced cases, where the results were not available for parties that were decoupling. It is important to remark that the main drivers for cancellations were mainly for a couple of reasons. First one, due to the slow of data processing, and the second one, to the fact that in each IDA session, a high number of parties are involved. We have 27 TSOs and 13 NEMOs, and get together with several applications, which leads to the cancellations. In order to improve data process, each session has not ended successfully, has been investigated by the Opscom group, applying corrective improvements both locally in the NEMO and TSO sites and in the centrally systems, with the purpose of improve the operational robustness. Opscom Groups is continuously monitoring the AIDA market to ensure that incidents don't reoccurring, as well as to analyze possible improvements both at the level of processes and at the level of operational procedures. As a new notice, to make the information from each AIDA session available to all market participants, from around 5 months ago, a report is published on a weekly basis on every Monday on NEMO Committee and NSOE websites and contains all relevant information about the AIDA sessions. Please, can we move on? Thank you. This slide has been divided into 2 clear parts. At the top of the slide, we can see information related to the total energy and total clear energy from the go live last 13th of June until end of August. As well as in the second part of the slide, we can find more specific data about the fallback sessions. Starting with the first part, in the period mentioned, as we can see in the table, the AIDA market has managed around 600 million megabytes per hour of total energy, considering supply and demand, with a total of 27 million of clear megabytes per hour. In the table, you can find for each of the indicated months, both the total energy value and the total clear energy, where we can see a bit increase in the months from July to August related to total energy, which corresponds to a small increase of total clear energy. Related to the second part of the slide, you can find in a more specific way a part of the number of the cancellation we have experienced, in total 12 sessions, as I indicated previously, the number of the automatic partial decoupling and partial decoupling in advance, having 5 sessions with automatic partial decoupling and 7 sessions with partial decoupling in advance. Checking the results, these are very good, since there have been only 3% of unsuccessful sessions compared to a percentage of 97% of successful sessions. Please, can we move on? Thank you. It is important to note that for the following slides, the second part of the presentation, the data sample taken includes data from the go live last 13th of June to the end of August. That means 2.5 months. In this slide, we can see a couple of graphs, where the first shows the clear volume per month for each AIDA, while the second shows the percentage of trading over the indicated period for each of the 3 AIDAs. Well, analyzing the first chart, it can be clear observed that from the go live on 13th of June, the clear volume per month is increasing for each of the AIDA. It means in June for the AIDA 1, we had a value a little over 2 million, while for June, we found a value that exceeds 6 million. So the increase is considerable as the months go by, taking into consideration that in June, we only had half of the months with the AIDAs in productions. The same situations happen for AIDA 2 and AIDA 3. The probably less significant change is for the AIDA 3, but we should consider that for this AIDA, manage half of the contracts. For the second chart, as we can see in the slide, for ITA 3, the trading remains constant for each of the months. However, ITA 1 increased throughout the months of June, July, and August. In the next slide, we can find another couple of graphs. The first one shows the clear volume of each IDA per week, where we can see that for all weeks, IDA 1 is the one with the highest clear volume, highlighting the week 29 with the maximum clear volume, up down that 1,600,000. In the second one, we can see the cancellation and automatic partial decoupling of IDAs that took place for each week. Can we move up, please? In the last slide of this part, we have analyzed the traded volume in megabytes per hour, both in the continuous intraday market, ITCT, from the beginning of the year 2024 to August 2024, as well as the traded volume in the IDA market from the go live 13th of June to August. It is important to remark that this slide covers the first request performed by the market participants during last MCCG meeting. As a result, after a comparison between the continuous intraday market and the IDA market, we can see that the overall traded volume within SITC, meaning ITCT plus IDA, is growing with the entry of the IDA market. Intraday market trading, SITC, in both auctions and IDAs has grown, especially in the months of June, July, and August, with the implementation of the IDAs in production. Can we move to the last slide? As I indicated at the beginning, in this last part of the presentation, the IDA improvements will be summarized. After the first 5 months of experience with IDA in operation, 7 improvements has already been implemented in productions in a short period of time. This is important, and where always the main purpose is the optimization of the times to speed up the process. Currently, one more improvement is being analyzed to be sure about the viability. To mention a couple of improvements implemented, we can mention an improvement related to the results time publications, where the timings has been changed from 17:30 to 14:30, and another improvement related to the reduce of the calculation step from 7 to 4 minutes. It's important to remark that for each improvement, testing activities have been performed, where numerous test cases have been carried out and by qualified and multidisciplinary experts. The IDA procedures are continuously updated and monitored, including improvements detected during the execution of the IDA, like as optimization of times and clarification in communications, among others. Regarding the operational staff, from the beginning, they are very familiar with the IDA process, where in case of issues, they are very decisive and quick when it comes to solve any issue. Thank you very much for your attention. We can move on the question sections.
present the slide before?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes. I suggested you go through this slide first, and then we go to the questions. Yes.
Okay. Very shortly, it's just one slide. So thank you, Dalila, for the presentation. So the first message is that we have reservations about intraday auctions that are potentially draining the liquidity out of the continuous market. These concerns were voiced in the past and are remains. They're evidenced by the feedback that we have on the Belgium and Netherlands situations where this actually sort of happens. And this is specifically important in the sense that we consider that the intraday continuous market is the best solution, the best option to trade close to real time, especially with more renewable capacity being installed. This is the only option that allows to react more rapidly to changes in system fundamentals instead of having to wait for a coming auction. On the intraday auctions launch, maybe worth mentioning that there have been challenges with the auction suspensions, but hopefully this will be a thing of the past, and hopefully we can expect that the system will become more robust over time. And very shortly, moving forward, we consider that it is important to monitor continuous intraday liquidity and look at what is the impact of the auctions on the continuous market. We also think that we should work on shortening the X-bid suspension when the intraday take place. Currently, there is a 40-minute suspension, 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after the auction. But this duration could be shortened to have to give more time for the continuous trading. And lastly, to enhance collaboration between the TSOs to improve the cross-border capacity availability. Thank you.
Well, first, thank you very much for your interest and feedback in the intraday auctions. We can start with the different questions provided. Related to the first one.
Yeah, perhaps Dalila, just to make things very crystal clear, Selim, on your second bullet point in bold, shortening X-bid suspension, let's be very clear, what is suspended is the cross-border allocation in X-bid, not the trading itself. It was reminded already in several MCCGs. Of course, the continuous markets are running when IDS processes are ongoing.
Okay. So we will continue. Related to the first one, in the previous slide, specifically in the slide 50, traded volume has been provided for IDCT and IDA market. After a comparison between both markets, we can see that the overall traded volume within SITC, I mean IDCT plus IDA, as I indicated, is growing with the entry of the IDA market. IDA auctions has been in productions for 4.5 months. I believe that this market should be in production more time in order to have more data, analyze it, and reach a correct conclusion. Related to the second one, time to close the interconnectors, it means 20 minutes prior to gate closure time, and to finish the IDA auctions 20 minutes after gate closure time, 40 minutes in total, it's under regulation. And related to last one, perhaps my colleague Martin, as a TSO, can explain you better, as he is more involved in this item. Please, Martin.
Yes, hello. On this, I might ask also Thomas in the enhancing of collaboration between TSOs for cross-border capacity availability.
Again, although I think in general, let's say it's an action that TSOs are working on to improve the cross-border availability. I think it's something that we are well aware of, that this is the case. I think we're also being challenged on this within the respective CCRs, as of course this is something which we're not addressing here in the MCSC, but it's something where at least TSOs are well aware of. I think we're being monitored as well. So that is for sure an action ongoing, and definitely something which is on the top list of TSOs to provide. Okay, I would suggest perhaps we go shortly through some questions, knowing that we are still a bit behind schedule. I'm not sure, Christina, if there are indeed some ones that are real top ones to be addressed. I guess there are many questions. I think that's at least positive. Very happy that we get them, that we're able to then at least tackle them either, or at least we will definitely pick them up in our Q&A list.
There is the first question, or maybe there was an answer provided to it. I didn't read it, but could preliminary result step be skipped for IDAS? Consolidation after preliminary result publication is causing operational issues and risk of imbalance. So I don't know if it's a position that is shared by all market participants, but that is to be checked. But one thing that puzzles me is, when does this cancellations can happen after the preliminary results have been published? I didn't have that point in mind. Maybe we can elaborate on that.
Yeah, probably I can answer, because this situation happens because we have a couple steps related to verification of the results. During the verification is performed by NIMOS. Once all NIMOS has informed that the results it's okay, the results are published to all market participants. Okay. The second one is performed by the market participants, and if during the second verifications the market participants don't agree, or for some reasons the systems doesn't work as expected or properly, in this moment the actions, the IDA actions, cannot be finished. So the IDA should be cancelled, despite the fact that the results had already been previously published to market participants. This is the reason.
So in general, I think it has to do indeed with the verification processes and confirmation processes after this step. I think I think there is already an answer provided.
Also,
I'm not sure if Selim, you can see it, but there has been an answer provided already in the slide also. So that's a clarification, and for clarification, it's something that is not only existing in IDA, it's also existing in day ahead indeed, already since the start.
I would like to clarify that also after first verification, okay, TSOs also need to perform verification, okay? So TSOs need also to accept the results. But this is the main point, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, I think looking to some other questions related to the added decoupling or the.
We had one, I think it's still on the IDAS, a suggestion for future values. It's the first one. Maybe this could be a quick one to answer.
Whether the breakdown could be on traded volumes per bidding zone and not only on an aggregated one. not sure, Dalila, this is something that we indeed can accommodate, or is already part of the reports that we're publishing.
Yeah. Okay. Based on the suggestions, we will take into account and we will include for the next meeting.
Thank you. Then we had still some questions which do not have any written answers. I'm trying to see through them so that we can focus on those only.
Perhaps to come back to what Selim, you indicated as a discomfort, I would say, to have liquidity or cross-border capacities not being infinite, obviously, between continuous and IDS. There are interactions. The cascade of markets is now fully complete since 2024, June. But indeed, what you convey is something we all have in mind since many years already, since the regulation imposed to launch 3 IDAs from scratch. There will be this constant ping pong between continuous and IDAs, or between day ahead and intraday. So what we can witness is that since the launch in June, we do not see anything related to a decrease of overall volumes. On the contrary, so overall intraday volumes is increasing. Still, the ventilation between continuous and intraday auctions, we will need more time to assess this. Basically, a first summer is not necessarily very representative. The 15 minutes introduction as well in some bidding zones is not complete. In intraday, it will be the case in Q1 next year. So we will constantly come back on these statistics.
I think we tried to answer as many questions already. I'm not sure, Christina, from your side, you had one already spotted. I think most of them are answered.
Yeah, we have one which is not answered yet, which you can see on the top of the screen now. Why are we seeing so many I canceled IDA auctions? This one doesn't have a reply yet.
Yeah, related to this question, as I indicated during my presentation, 422 IDAs has been executed, where only 12 IDAs has been cancelled. So based on this data, it's clear that the market is young. We can say that the market is the IDA auctions is working successfully. Nevertheless, we will analyze the future situations we experience, but currently this is the data that we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I would suggest we go to the next agenda topic, as we're still a bit behind schedule, but at least we try to accommodate also some of the questions. So we can go to the next agenda topic, which is about intraday gate closure time coming from the recent regulation, which will be presented by the SPOC. I think on this acronym we can provide some. I think it's because it's an acronym with already almost 8 or 7 letters, but it's the intraday gate closure cross-zonal gate closure time SPOC, which is Gergo Holo for TSOs. Gergo, go ahead.
Indeed, thank you very much, Thomas, and good afternoon for everyone. As Thomas said, I was appointed by market coupling TSOs to act as a single point of contact for this intraday cross-zonal gate closure time reduction topic that is basically put on a table by the EMDR regulation. This is a rather complex topic from at least the TSO's point of view, because there are a lot of bodies, entities, forums that are affected by these changes that should be introduced due to this process improvement. You can see some preliminary assessments, which processes would be affected according to the first discussion on the TSO side. The nomination and matching process is obviously affected. The balancing capacity, balancing timeframe capacity calculation will be affected. The way MARC platform could work could be potentially affected, and also security analysis related processes will be affected. As you can see, there are various levels and various topics that has to be coordinated somehow to create a solution that would be manageable by both the TSOs and the NEMOs once we are under this new regime. Please, the next slide, Christina. We've created some first overview among the TSOs because the regulation itself creates the possibility for the TSOs to apply for derogation in case they consider that the implementation of the 30-minute intraday horizontal gate closure time could cause difficulties on their side. It's important to highlight that this is a preliminary assessment because, as I said, this is a rather complex topic, and there are a lot of open questions how to solve those issues that could pop up during these process improvements. Therefore, this map should not be considered as a final, but we will provide regular updates during these MCCG sessions in the future as well to provide you the proper overview how you can prepare with regards to these derogation-related questions. As you can see, there are some TSOs who already, or some countries that's already planning to apply for derogation. Majority of the TSOs are still assessing whether they would need a derogation or not. Probably their decision will be influenced by the design that I already mentioned in terms of the outstanding questions. And there are some TSOs who assessment thinks that they will apply for no derogation. So they won't apply for derogation and try to go live as soon as possible, which is planned by January 2026 in line with the regulation. The next slide, please, Christina. As you can see on the derogation roadmap, there are obviously, so the go live itself can only done on a border basis because this how the design in the intraday trading is defined. So that would mean that in case on one side of the border some TSO asking for derogation, that would mean that even though on the other side of the border, the other TSO would not apply for derogation, that border obviously cannot go live due to the derogation of at least one side of the border. So, and obviously the latest derogation would define at which point in time that given border could go live. It is important to highlight that there are two phases for such derogation process according to the regulation. The first derogation should be submitted next year. There's no concrete deadline for that in derogation, so it's according to the local legislation to go through the whole process and to grant the derogation, obviously before the foreseen go live, which is January 2026, as I mentioned. So the derogation process should be finished before that, obviously. The second, and this first window for derogation goes up until 29, and there is a second derogation step or possibility in case if it's needed to prolong this derogation until by mid 31. The latter one would require also some assessments on ESA side, so it's a bit more complex process, and probably that would require a bit longer approval period. Therefore, the regulation itself says that the second derogation should be submitted by 30th June 28. Given this quite lengthy period of potential go live dates or go live approaches, the MCSC proposing some kind of go live window approach in order to accommodate all the given borders that would go live after 26. So basically propose one go live window every year, probably in January, in order to get on board with all those borders that would go live in that year. This is how we currently see the overall process, and this is how we think that it could be included in the overall MCSC roadmap. And we will provide you with further details once we have more clarity on the design-related questions and on the derogation request of each of the TSOs. So further updates will come. Please be prepared and do not hesitate to contact us in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kirko.
Thank you. I'm checking the questions also based on the time received, but also based on the topic. I don't see any received on this particular topic that was just presented.
No, I don't.
Maybe just a quick question on my side. I understand those are essentially national processes, but are there forums of discussions, working groups that are set up to synchronize those go lives for the issue you mentioned?
Indeed, this will be synchronized and put together under the MCSC umbrella. So this is why we come up with this option or idea to manage under Windows. So that would mean that we will combine those go lives that for those countries and borders that plan to go live on the given border at a dedicated year.
Okay, and you are in contact with the attached NRAs. I mean, you have a mirroring working group on the NRA side.
Indeed, we started the discussion with the NRAs too. This is also some ongoing process, and more discussion will follow in the upcoming months for sure. But yes, there are some alignment and organization with the NRAs too.
Yes, indeed. And I think here to come back, I think it's a bit here in the gray zone. Is this MCSC or a more TSO only? I think as you indicated correctly, Selim, the parties in charge are the TSOs because they have to ask for a derogation. But here again, we tried to accommodate it to some extent also on the central level, knowing that from market participants' perspective, there is the interest to have this. So that's also why Gergo is presenting it here today, and why we also will have it as a kind of recurring topic that you get at least the overview. But indeed, it's not us or Gergo being in charge, but we're trying to at least accommodate and provide the overview internally amongst TSOs engaging with NRAs, but also then here on this forum.
Indeed.
Trying to at least do a stretch where we can or where we consider it's indeed relevant for market participants. Right, but I think indeed we did not have any questions. I'm not sure. I think it's a good or a bad thing. It might be that the topic is perhaps not so known, but that's also why one of the reasons why we're bringing it here, as in essence it will bring once it's not an easy thing, but once it's there, of course, you will be as market participants be able to trade much closer to real time, which I can imagine is something perceived positively from your side, but of course a challenge for TSOs and EMUs to make sure that everything is then still done correctly and safely. Okay. Is there any question? Okay, it's there's one question popping in. Sorry, Christina, but I think we can answer. I think Jorgo, we can answer it indeed. It's let's say a kind of critique that it's questionable from a fundamental power system needs and market welfare for so many TSOs asking for derogation. It's the last question here. I will let you answer already at first why indeed we're asking for a derogation. I can complement even perhaps afterwards, but I would say it's not so easily done to just allow trading 30 minutes before go live.
Yeah, indeed. Basically, as I mentioned, the first part of the presentation, that there are a lot of processes that are affected this change. So all the processes that are following the market clearing on a central level on TSO side would be shifted, reduced, made it more efficient. Some of those have to be run potentially parallel. That is running for the time being sequentially. So there are a lot of things to be changed, both on process side and on IT system side on TSO level to accommodate this change. And this would be rather difficult. As I said, the assessment is still ongoing on the TSO side, how to solve those issues that were already identified. And we try to come up with solutions as soon as possible to provide a firm roadmap till when we can solve this issue and when the testing and all these things should start, which is more relevant for the market participants, obviously.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Gergo. I think that was a very good overview.
Thank you.
I guess we can go to the next agenda topic indeed, which is for Christopheros and Chiara, sorry, an update on the different methodologies that we have.
Yeah, thank you. Just a few words from my side on the updated on the SDAC and seed product methodology. So if we want to start from this, exactly, we can start from SDAC product methodology. As you all know, on the by the end of September, ESER issued its decision, the number 13 of 2024. The main content of this decision is related to the fact that PUN order and complex order will be removed from the methodology, starting and the methodology will be applied starting from the go live of 15 minutes MTU in SDAC. Just let me remind here something that we already said in the last MCCG, but regardless the go live of 15 minutes MTU, for the PUN order will be no more an outcome of the algorithm starting from the 1st of January 2025, while the complex order will be removed starting from the go live date of the 15 minutes MTU in SDAC. Then another change with respect to our proposal is related to the naming of the product. The MTU order this term is related only to the 15 minutes curve orders, while the 30 and 60-minute course order are renamed into periods order. And this is a big difference with respect to our previous proposal, in which all these orders were called multiple MTU. So now MTU is referred only for the 15 minutes, and periods order are referred to 30 and 60 minutes curve order. Regardless this change in the name, both periods order and MTU order are still among the mandatory products, as well as simple box order. So this is just a change in the name, but not change in the substance of the treatment of this product in the methodology. Then if we go to the other slide related to this product methodology, just be aware that we publish on the NEMO committee website the report for the question we received in the public consultation.
I think we have lost Chiara, right?
Seems that there is a problem with her connection.
Christophoros, you might be taking over, perhaps?
Yeah, why not? So about the seed product methodology, we have followed up a relevant public consultation. We have published the report at the NEMO committee website. So the main content for this proposal is to have a kind of alignment between the day-ahead provisions, so the methodology for the stack products and the relevant IDAS products as they are reflected in the seed product methodology. And here again, the IDAS curve order is renamed and kept among the mandatory products. This is in a line. And we have also introduced the 30-minute and 60-minute curve orders, also keeping the same terminology as period orders, and under again the mandatory products. And we have also adapted all the other relevant terms and definitions as it were introduced in stack product methodology. We have also included cross-product matching updates for in and out of the manual rules, which were also aligned with the stack product methodology. And also here, we do not have again complex orders, which are replaced by scalable complex orders. And also about the exclusive group block orders and their usage, it's also aligned with stack product methodology. So in a nutshell, this is currently an update which is aligned with the stack product methodology relevant provisions already decided, already included in the last decision. The update, now the updated proposal, it's already submitted to ACER, but we are not considering this update proposal for the seed product methodology as, let's say, conceptually required for the introduction of the 15-minute products in seed. It is more or less an update for having these uniform provisions between day-ahead and IDAS as concerned the relevant usage of the products. So we may go to the next slide. So in June 2024, market participants raised the question in the last MCCG about whether we could have a more inclusive mode of consultation on products. We have taken this consideration, and here is our current proposal. So there is a setup always where we are doing a public consultation, which is stemming from the CACM. So there is a bi-yearly consultation obligation for NEMOs on the available products for stack and seed. And we are following this obligation, and even more, we provide consultation occasions where required by relevant needs and circumstances. I would like to remind you that we had passed a biannual consultation process for stack products, and then after collecting the feedback, we came also and included provisions for the introduction of the 15-minute MTU when it is required, at least for the introduction of them as implemented in the 15-minute MTU day-ahead market. So the format of this consultation is always following also specific standards. So we are proposing updates and to the current documents or to the annexes, supported also by explanatory notes. The consultation period is always at least 1 month. And during this public consultation, we are collecting the feedback and we are providing the replies via consultation reports. I would like to remind you that during this process, if there is any feedback that it could be considered irrelevant to the public consultation, this is also highlighted, okay? And it can be considered, of course, in another public consultation or in another methodology. So what we can offer as improvements is that we already know that this session that we're taking now, Market Coupling Consultative Group, market participants can provide constructed proposals for updates and improvements. So for whatever products or order types, okay, I would say that even not only on these methodologies, but also in other relevant methodologies, as for example, the ALCO methodology, because these methodologies are always interconnected. So such proposals, we may collect them during the MCCG and we may evaluate them again via a standard public biannual public consultation process, or even in an ad hoc basis. And we can also provide kind of dedicated workshops for discussing the proposals that coming from NEMOS and market participants. And we can also provide also a specific content and material through presentations on these workshops, and also provide the Q&A formula to collect feedbacks during this process. However, on the drafting of the methodologies, we consider that this at least is on a legal and efficiency basis is a responsibility of the NEMOS, and of course, where it is the case with the coordination of the TSOs. We may go to the next slide. So about the algorithm methodology, a very quick review on this. So you already know that we have passed, let's say, almost 1 year of a public consultation of the previous summer. And now in September, later September, we have also the decision 11 from Acer, which reflects specific amendments on the algorithm methodology, especially for optimization. So now the decision concentrates specifically on the R&D requirements, okay, for development of optimization stack. And any other provisions or proposals for amending the algo methodology for the inclusion of balancing capacity products as requirements or as results are now removed from the main body of the algorithm methodology. However, what we have concluded after the cooperation with our Acer colleagues is that we have amended the day-ahead requirements annex. So you may find, although there the requirements that will be considered during the R&D phase, we have amended the R&D content, okay, listing all the areas of interest that will be included during the R&D. And we have amended also the R&D timeline. So you may see that this R&D content is being dispatched in several subphases, sequential subphases, gradual step-by-step approach, as it was also a first proposal from NEMOS and TSOs. So, of course, there are some slight modifications to the proposed deadlines, but in any case, now the R&D deliverables are always under public consultation and also take into consideration the Acer proposals. So you may see these 3 last bullets actually reflected in Article 4, paragraphs 14, 15, and 16. Something that I would like to mention also, that any reference to processing or amending the algo methodology and any satellite methodologies, like for example the stack product methodology or the standard product balancing capacity methodology, is now removed. So now what we consider is that when we will have maturity on the R&D, then we will come to update the relevant methodologies reflecting also the outcomes of the R&D. Also, any reference for defining an implementation date, which is actually cannot be provided currently as we are or running the R&D phase, is now removed. So we may move to the next slide, but I will leave this content for my Stack MSD colleagues, which will go through the co-optimization subject in a while. So we may skip this and move to the next one. So this one, and I think is the last one for our methodology section, concerns the harmonized managed clearing prices methodology. So the last one decision for this methodology was in January 2023. So we are going to foresee a startup of a public consultation already after the New Year's holidays in January for this public consultation. And what we are going to do for this, we are going also to collect input from market participants, and we will preliminarily assess if there is any need for updating on this methodology, especially relevant with the 15-minute MTQ introduction in STAC and SIDC. And as I said, this will start in beginning of 2025. So I think that concludes my section here. Happy to hear any questions coming up from market participants. Thank you.
I do not see any questions on the methodologies update yet, but perhaps they can still come.
Well, I could say that some questions that were coming from the 15-minute MTU were also relevant to the stack product methodology, and some answers provided they're already marking up some stack product methodology provisions. So it is always a combination.
And we have several questions which are unanswered, but they're related to either the topics already tackled. So perhaps we can reserve 5 minutes at the end once we finish all the topics, and now continue with the presentation, unless either of the conveners would have a different proposal.
I think there are interesting questions on the previous topics. Indeed, it would be nice to keep 5 minutes at the end.
Yes, let's try to do so, and it should hopefully be feasible. All right, I think that we can shortly go to a recurrent topic that we have, which is the roadmap for SDAC and SIDC and the key projects that we're tackling, for which we normally have one of our MCSC chairs in the call. We have a look. I think Andre Westerman should be here.
Yep, I'm in the call.
Yes.
Can you see me? Oh, anyway.
At least we can hear you. That's
yeah,
sufficient already.
Okay. That's 50%. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, much appreciated. Good afternoon, everybody. Lively discussion again today. So I think we are good. I understood also that the 50 minutes is obviously an important topic, not just for you, but also for us. So we will come back to the topics. This will be obviously moving forward in 25, a very important topic in the intraday time frame, as well as in the day ahead time frame. But parallel, maybe not so much for the public eye, but obviously important for us. We will continue to work on the operations by the systems as well as by procedures. So we have planned precisely for SDAC as well as for SIDC mitigation or discussions internally how to do potential mitigation measures in order to make the systems, make the procedures even more robust. Moving forward, obviously also to the advancement of the market, that it's that we not just deliver what we deliver, but that we also deliver it in the way that is extremely robust. On the SDAC side, the R&D topic is obviously on the co-optimization. We started the survey, so this will be just touched right after this, so I'm not going to go into details, but I would like to express my gratitude to all market participants that they're actively involved in here, because this co-optimization is obviously not just an item that we do because it might make sense from one or the other perspective, but it needs to make, we need to look at the entire chain from the NEMOs, from the TSOs, from the market participants to see what kind of value this process can entail moving forward. So your voice is extremely appreciated. So please speak up, try to engage with us, and we are very happy that we have started this process with you and that you're also part of this journey with us for the foreseeable future. From the TSO perspective, in the SIDC side, we will and continue to be very much focusing on flow-based in the intraday time frame, how to include it in the IDAs, in the continuous trading, in the handover between the two types of allocation mechanisms. So this is something that we will spend a lot of time moving forward, as this is a very, very complex topics. We just extended, and they had the topology for flow-based. We will introduce and extend also the flow-based topology in intraday. So obviously that's quite important that we also see that the central systems are geared towards it, but also the local and regional processes are conducive to ensure that the proper data is provided. And obviously more is more sometimes when it comes to capacities. And I suppose Salim will be happy if there are more capacities available. We will always try to do our best. But obviously, markets and physics need to go hand in hand. There's just no wishful thinking. There's only proper operations and continuous improvements on processes on both sides. When we look further into the future, the extensions, and particularly to the energy, the 8 energy community countries, this is something that we are working on. Obviously, this needs quite a couple of steps of the energy community countries in by themselves. For most, the transposition of the energy acquis, which has not happened until now. So there is quite some delay, but we are hopeful that the partners, the TSOs as well as future NEMOs, will be able to provide and go this route in this way, that the CACM and all other things that need to be done, like the MCOIP or the introduction of CCRs, is on a proper way. So we will continuously to follow this in 2025. However, we already see that there's quite some delay. Plus, it needs quite some onboarding to processes, starting from an explicit allocation regime, which on some borders has just been introduced and extended some time ago, for example, on Ukrainian borders. And also with a certain new service provider, in this case now with via JAO, we do see that this is a steep learning curve that needs to be taken within a relatively short time frame. So we also need to take the proper time to ensure that it works on all sides from our perspective, and which has already been communicated also by the Energy Community Secretariat, that an inclusion in 2026 is very unlikely from our perspective right now. We see that Q1 27 would be the primary objective for the SDAC go live. Let's see how this materializes moving forward. But as I said, there are multiple steps in order to get there. And this is surely not an easy route, nor are there any shortcuts to get there. And then in the following steps, then also need to be implemented moving forward. We do see it as a succession from one to the other, as the learning curves and the lessons learned from one to the other obviously should be taken into consideration. What is quite important for us that we are thinking now, and this is also coming back to the feedback that we have gotten from the market participants, but also from the regulators, that windows are very important for us. Why? Because windows start at a certain day, but they also end a certain day. So they put quite significant pressures on us, but also on the parties that would like to join, to really make it sure that they can join in those timing windows and not delay parallel projects, like, for example, the Baltic M&A or any other project that will go live in the future, which we have to some extent, but not to all extent yet, mapped out for the years to come. Obviously, as said earlier, flow-based coupling and other measures will be, at least from a TSO perspective, obviously in the interest, and as I understood also from market participants, high interest of increasing capacities for the various allocation mechanisms. And just introduced by Gergo, we are working very hard trying to align the various projects that we have at hand on the TSO side. So this is not just markets, but it's also system operations, it's balancing, that all need to work hand in hand in order to make the initial go live in 26, and then every go live of the 30 minutes intraday across zonal gate closure time possible moving forward, to ensure that those windows are properly handled and securely operated, ensuring trading closer to real time. So I'm hoping with this short overview of the roadmap ahead and years to come, they will be challenging, they will be interesting. And we very much look also forward that with the continuous interaction that we have with you, the market participants, we can make each step as successful as we have also been in the past, and maybe even more successful moving forward.
Thank you, André. I will show myself as insistent, but I see at the top of the slide that if we can come back to that, that the 15-minute stack go live, there is a window spanning over the beginning of the second quarter. Does this mean that so far it is excluded that the go live would be delayed after, let's say, May 2025? Or is that an overinterpretation of this slide?
I think that's the interpretation.
Then you're missing the brackets in between what is written in between the brackets, which is to be confirmed. Salim, if I can then chip in again. So that was, I think that's it cannot be indeed confirmed. No, fortunately not. But I think that's also why we said before that it's better to communicate a fixed date in December, beginning December, which we're targeting the MESC, so that you are able to have this clarity.
Okay. Salim, thank you very much. Thomas?
Yes,
thank you.
Thanks, Andre, for the overview. All right. I think we have 9 minutes left for normally still one. Sorry. I think for one agenda topic on the co-optimization, which I think Maria can tackle. I think we would be able to perhaps go 5 minutes over time to check how we conclude on some last questions, if any. But Maria, go ahead for your co-optimization topic.
Yes, so today I will give briefly about the update of the survey that has been conducted during the last month and about the time schedule. So the co-optimization work has been started together with the Market Coupling Steering Committee, NIMO's DSOs, together with the ENTSO-E parties. And the timeline that we have drafted for this co-optimization study and the research and development work is according the now taking the algorithm methodology approved algorithm methodology timeline in the account. So as part of this phase one, the concept of the co-optimization model, where includes the bidding language and pricing model, is now to be drafted. And in relation to phase one, there was organized informal survey with the market participants, where the aim has been to collect your input on the possibility and interest of the use the co-optimization balancing capacity and energy market. We did this questionnaire in this early phase in order to avoid developing the concept that doesn't fit for the purpose. The survey was ending this week's Wednesday. Now we have received the feedback. Thank you all the providing. There are many of those. So we are now looking at the responses and get the input for the study. When the survey was launched, there was after that also the webinar with the very short notice. Time 11th October organized, and that aim on that was to provide the input what was the survey was about. We got quite a lot of questions during the survey, so those are also now published. The QA, you can find it from ENTSO-E or NEMA committee websites on those. To follow up this survey and the phase one study, there is now the plan to have a physical meeting in December at the ENTSO-E premises in Brussels. In that meeting, we are going to talk about the response to the survey and then figure out the main findings are to be present and if also a possibility to show you that what are the identified design challenges. The invitation to this physical meeting is to be published in the coming week, so I don't have a yet exact date available today. The timeline and in general concept of the R&D is shown here in general on this slide. So on this start with the R&D where the requirements are to be identified, and this is to be then to set the final implementation target and the requirements. So in order to be in that point that we can start the adaptation to the methodologies, as Christopher also mentioned in his presentations, we will have a several iteration round and going forward with the design. So of course, during the going forward, learning more about the needs and other challenges or requirements. So as the first step on this path, we are having the conceptual study as a phase 1, and the modeling of the co-optimization in that phase is done with the use the simplified use cases. So R&D will demonstrate the feasibility and the implications of the different design options, and it will be focused now on the bidding and the pricing. So after that phase, all the methodologies are updated, and then after the industrialization and production implementation can be started and to be foreseen. I have one slide there still the same as Christopher's had, so you can go to the next one. The several iterations, like I said, is expected to be foreseen. And here is the overall timeline presented as aligned with the approved algorithm methodology. So now Q4, we are on the conceptual study phase. So the first prototyping with the simplified use cases are to be run. And then the first report to be delivered by end of the Q1 25, which after there is following the consultation with the market participants in May. This phase 1 will be respond to the article 15 in the article algorithm methodology of the points to A to C in and specific of the product and bid design and the pricing model. So the public consultation in May that will also include in the assessment that is done by the NIMOS, TSOs and ACER. So then when we have closed the consultation, we take the received feedback in the account, and then we will update the report 1, which is the revision of the report 0, and that to be published by end of the Q3 25. And in that report, we will select the options for product design and the bid design, which we are then to be assessed to the next R&D phase. The R&D phase 2 on the row 2 there, seeing that kicks off. And then we focus more on the evolved prototype to be developed. And that includes also the algorithm methodology points D and G, which is, for example, the system operational regulations, curtailment, etc., to be included. And then we conclude the technical feasibility of the options that was chosen in the phase 1 of the R&D. That report is to be finalized by end of the May 26. Then there is a third report R3, which is to be then finalized during the Q3 26. And there also the backup and the fallback procedures as the governance is to be included. So after these phases, then we can make the amendments to the methodologies and can start the industrialization of the optimization. I think that was from my side on this time schedule. the co-optimization in general.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. I think there are no questions that came in on this topic specifically. So
just a quick comment, if I may, Thomas, on my end.
Yes,
I'll convey here the message that was conveyed in the BSG this Wednesday. This topic is complicated. First, because it's complicated on the technical point of view, and the second, because it has the specificity to be a long-term project that started a long time ago and will continue for some time again. And there is a stake there to manage knowledge and to manage mutual understanding. I think there's been a lot of work that was made at different periods of times, and I think we're somehow lost on where we are exactly today. What are the working assumptions? What are the objectives? It was shown during the BSG that there was misunderstanding on those objectives, namely, for example, whether or not heavy market redesign was on the table or not. And I think we have a stake there, and we have to tackle it. And to be practical, I see that there is consultations that are foreseen in the coming months and years. It would be a good thing that those are not the only touch points that we have, and that we sort of prepare those consultations a little bit ahead, exchanging on what's coming and again what are the working assumptions there.
So thank you for the feedback. So we take this into account. I guess it was not the question itself, but rather about the comment on going forward.
Yes. Okay. Good. I think we have one AOB, but I think on this one we can be rather short. I think it's something expected to go live, at least Pierre, if I'm not mistaken. But with an eye on the time, I think we.
Actually, it has went live already, yeah? In July, and the last
Maybe
most cities are going live before the end of the year.
I can start presenting. I will be quick. I'm usually quite efficient, so if you give me a couple of minutes, I can make the overview that was supposed to be presented today. Is it fine?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, so very quick, Lara Visone convening SIDC MSD. From Nemo's side, this slide was prepared to give you the update on one of the things that were introduced with the EMD reform that was that went into force, entered into force in July 2024, imposing that the trading in a delivery area would have been shared in the same order book until the latest point in time the trading is possible. So considering how XBIT was configured in terms of trading schedule, it was raised a request for change to OPSCOM, to SIDC OPSCOM, to change the configuration at SOB side in order that in most of the bidding zones where this change was possible to be introduced, considering the balancing rules active in each of the countries, the trading schedule was basically moved where possible until delivery. So you have a quite nice representation with these little flags that indicate to you where now you have the possibility at central level to trade until delivery, which is Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, and the Netherlands, while Germany and Luxembourg, the trading is still, the continuous trading, of course, is still allowed until 5 minutes before delivery as per request of German TSOs. And in the picture in the bottom of the slide, you can see the timeline, basically from the start when the trading opens in each of the delivery areas, passing by the time at which the cross-border trading opens for the day after. And then delivery area by delivery area, you have them grouped based on the time at which the trading expires in that delivery area. So based on the obligation imposed by regulation, the system was configured accordingly, changing the trading schedule, which is the way that technically allows to set the time at which contracts expires for trading. So that configuration was changed in SOB 18th of July 2024. And basically from that point, the trading at central level is allowed to last until the latest point in time. And I don't know if there's any question about that. Indeed, it's a quite straightforward change at central level. So.
No, thanks, Laura. So far, no questions on this one, indeed. So, as you said, also, it's quite straightforward. And I think the slides is a quite comprehensive and clear one. So, thanks for guiding us through in the shorter time frame than initially foreseen. All right, good. Then I think we are at the end of the session in terms of content. I suggest we try to see if we are still able to answer some questions. I know, Selim, you had some that you wanted to perhaps address, so I will suggest indicate them. And I will try, I think we should try to wrap up somewhere around 2040. So that's a short overrun, but I think then we can conclude.
Yes, I'll try to find them back in the whole list. I didn't tag them, unfortunately, but otherwise, correct me if I'm wrong, but the objective is to provide answers afterwards, outline, if I may say, to all the questions that were asked. So if you didn't get the answer, you will eventually have it published on the website.
Yes.
Maybe I see the first question may be worth answering. What will be the final extended calculation times? You've provided it was the last MCCG or the one before, I don't really remember, an updated timeline with still a few uncertainties. Question here is where are we on those uncertainties, I guess.
Selim, I missed the beginning of your sentence. Report on what, sorry? What was the topic you mentioned at the beginning of the sentence?
It was the first question. It's not on the screen anymore, but
okay.
Are there...
The second one.
Now it's the second.
Yeah.
On the stack 15 minutes, it keeps on jumping. On the stack 15 minutes, what will be the final extended calculation time? Plus 3 minutes, plus 6 minutes, etc.
Yeah, so I think here, Pierre or Adele do not hesitate to step in. I think it's indeed something we mentioned previously. We still have this plan A to indeed only have as limited extension time as possible. I think there is no confirmation given yet, as what we said is it's something that will be part of the testing also. I think, and I'm not sure if Adele is still in the call, otherwise we definitely will elaborate in the written question. But the assumption is also that we are testing with this 3-minute calculation time extension as a plan A. And provided if that all goes smooth and there is no issues, that will be then confirmed once these tests have been successful. Otherwise, the alternative was suggested. So it's on our radar. I think it's also the way how we're planning. But giving the communication done also on the testing being ongoing, there is no communication or no final confirmation that can be given this conditionality.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. And maybe we can take a last question. I see one of the question I had spotted is how can impacted market participants contribute to the discussion on making improvements to prevent another decoupling incident? Do you want to take this one?
I can give it a try, although that I think the way how you are doing it then, speaking on your control, so as market participant convener and engaging with us and coming with these proposals, I think that's at least the most effective way in my view. I think we have set up this MCCG to have, let's say, a kind of way of communicating with market participants. So that's at least the way how we try to accommodate the biggest inputs. And at least I hope you can confirm that we try to really take these feedbacks into account, and we value them, and we try to accommodate them to the extent possible or as much as possible. So it's, at least from my perspective, that's a very effective and also efficient way, because of course we have to take into account efficiency as well. So I would recommend then everyone to indeed channel their requests through the federations. That's at least the way how we are engaging here. Of course, if you would have very concrete suggestions, they can be shared here as well. I think it's something that we can try to accommodate, but of course difficult to do this for every single entity, unfortunately. Not sure if that pleases you, Slim, or if you can confirm.
No, it does. I think in the question. In the question, there was a how and when somehow, and maybe behind the question was when will things be set into stone, and we won't be able to wait on it.
Okay. Yeah, right. So that I missed. I was not deliberately dancing around. Not playing politician game here. Sorry, that one I cannot say, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yes, Selim, so of course this work is already ongoing. So what we really invite you to do is, as you did for this MCCG, but please do it in between. Please do not wait for the next event. Please channel your concept ideas proposals as you did to this MCSC, MCCG conveners. So currently Thomas and myself, and it will feed the TSOs and NIMOS discussion on this point necessarily. Please feel free, of course, to go to the MESC as well on a quarterly basis, or invite your market participants to centralize this kind of feedback through you associations. This is more efficient.
And maybe it is worth mentioning that one possible next step on that is the revision of CACEM. Maybe there are some provisions that will be included in CACEM if needed, obviously, on that. So the proposal is at the end of the year, if my understanding is correct. So the time would be rather now than later.
Yes.
You are correct. I think the timeline you indicate is fully correct. Yes. Do not wait for next year, in a nutshell.
Voilà.
Okay.
Maybe we can.
Indeed. I think, as Selim said, so all the questions being raised, we will take it into account and publish a Q&A document, as we also did for the previous MCCG. So that's an action we will take on board. So if your question has not been answered, don't be afraid. We will try to take them on board and provide answers to the extent we are able to do so, of course. So that's a bit the way forward. From my side, I would like to thank all the conveners also taking the time and giving the good presentations. I think the quality and the content was well prepared and also interesting. I think we had sometimes up to 350 participants, so much appreciated. And I think also Christina, thanks for accommodating it. And I think in general on my side, I can also say a big thanks to everyone, as very likely this will be my last MCCG, as I will be stepping down as convener end of year. And normally by then a new TSO convener will step in, replacing me on TSO side. To my understanding, Pierre, you will still be stuck with him. But that's on my side at least. I much appreciated these engagements. I think we came from far, and we're now at the 7th already, and hopefully many still will come. But on my side, I really appreciate it, and I was happy to at least close with this one as a last MCCG on my side normally. So not sure, Pierre or Celine, from your side, some closing words. But I think we.
Yes, thank you, Thomas, for the cooperation. Indeed, no event until Q1 next year. So we will submit a date in the coming weeks or months. Stay tuned. We went to 3 events this year, 2024. It is the 3rd one after February and June. So we ramped up. The cooperation is working well. And we basically will replicate what we did over 2024 in 2025 in terms of process, duration of meetings, mornings only, and 3 times a year. So what you saw in the last 2 events is supposed to be the enduring way of working.
With the caveat, and I think so that something was mentioned that also last year, this year we had a dedicated session on IDAS. So we are indeed considering whether it's making sense also for the 50 minutes, giving the interest in the topic. That is indeed something that we are evaluating. So I think it's making so that's also then confirming that what we do for this year is something that we try in general as a practice for the upcoming years as well.
Good.
Celine, last words from your side.
Celine,
I'll
as a
just,
client as well for this meeting, please.
I'll be very brief as well, just to thank you all for all the co-conveners, all the presenters of the day, for the work. Again, I know that this is a lot of work for the preparation, but it's very useful to have this forum, and special thanks for Thomas then for the contributions and the quality work. It was much appreciated. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice rest of the day.
Goodbye.
Indeed. And a good weekend already for
Bye-bye.
afterwards. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.